Welcome, everybody, to the third episode of the Hearth and Home podcast. Today is a very special episode because we have the podcast king himself, RidiculousHat, joining us. And I'm not going to lie, you're part of the reason why I'm doing this, and you're also the reason why we have the name that we decided on because, or I should say that I decided on because, I couldn't think of anything, and Hearth and Home is very, very accurate of what I'm trying to accomplish here, of just bringing on Hearthstone personalities and just having a good old time and just chatting about quite literally anything. So, RidiculousHat, how are you today?
Doing okay. Thanks for having me on, man. I am honored that this is considered a very special episode. It's like Seventh Heaven or something. I've been back to work, like work over the past couple of weeks. I work for a large movie theater company in New York City, and Manhattan got the approval last Friday to reopen. So it's been the year before that, there wasn't a lot going on in the movie industry. And so it's been nice to have purpose again, but like it's been tiring and busy. And so yeah, it's nice to sit down and hang out with a friend and drink a beer and talk for a while.
Yeah, out of curiosity, what exactly do you do in the movie theater industry? Because like I see you post about movies all the time on Twitter, and especially at the beginning of all of this, you were very very upset about all the AMC's that were closing down.
Well, I work for a large chain. Intelligent people can figure it out. I'm not going to say the name, but like I'm not trying to keep this a secret. I'm just avoiding saying explicitly. But I've been with this company for 14 years. I started as a crew member, whatever you want to call it, as the people that scoop your popcorn and sell you tickets.
Okay.
And I was quickly recognized as a talented underachiever. I'm sure we'll talk about that term later in the show, probably multiple times if I had to guess. And my managers were just like, he keeps asking questions. Why does he keep asking questions? And obviously, anyone in this world that knows me, like I just like knowing things. So I kept knowing things. Then I kept teaching other people things. They were like, "Hey, you want to do more?" And so I started. No college degree or anything like that. I just worked in a movie theater and I was good at it. So they promoted me, moved me to New York City, and then gave me my own theater. And then after
Wait,
4 years
like
of
managing your own theater or like?
general manager, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I was the top
sweet.
person.
Let's go.
Yeah. So that happened. I moved to New York City on the company's dime in 2012 because they pay for it when it's over 50 miles. And then they gave me a theater in Long Island to run. My first day there was the day after Hurricane Sandy. The first day. It was insane. There were 3 employees and we did just under 3,000 people. It was crazy. Was there for 2 years, then took over another theater to oversee a remodel project, then moved back into Manhattan, then briefly ran a virtual reality arcade that we were trying. It didn't work out. It was a bad idea. And then became a regional systems engineer where I made sure movie projectors ran, like anything that had to do with the sight and sound for 13 locations on Queens and Long Island, and then 5 upstate ones in Buffalo, which is not near where I live. If any of you are unfamiliar with New York geography, it's about an 8-hour drive north that I flew. But
So you've been all over New York doing this stuff.
all over New York, and then that position went away when COVID started because tighten the belt, and so they gave me a theater back, and now I work at a small theater in Manhattan, small busy theater, and it's been an adjustment, but the company went out of their way to keep me employed, even though a lot of people didn't get that luxury, so I appreciated that.
Well, there you go. At least you're bringing home the bacon, and at least you're doing something that you love because not everybody was so lucky. I mean, honestly, though, something about everything that's happened in the past like year and whatnot is that people have been able to. I mean, not only have they lost jobs and stuff like that, but some people have been able to start projects and stuff like that. Like a lot of people took up streaming. A lot of people have been quitting their jobs in order to pursue some other kind of life dreams. If it's able to be done at home. Obviously, some other stuff is a little bit harder to do, but have you been able to do anything recent, do anything new that you have been able to really try since all of this started? I guess any new hobbies.
I've been able to overburden my time more and then realize it this past week. Does that count?
Wait, overburden your time? Like just take on too many things?
So at the start of furlough, I needed some kind of structure. So I started streaming Monday through Friday at noon. that was like, I do enjoy connecting with people. Streaming is not my favorite overall, but it was really helpful to have that kind of consistent schedule, and people showed up, and I got support almost instantly, which I was really humbled by and appreciative of. But I did that until furlough was over in August-ish, but then I was just going into an empty movie theater for 6 months, like just an empty movie theater, and sitting in an office of a building I'd never worked in before. And the building is not particularly well ventilated, so insulated, ventilate both. So in the winter, I was sitting in my office, and it was cold, and it felt like a morgue. It was just empty, and nobody was there, and it was incredibly depressing. And this was November, December, and I live in America, so there was other stuff going on in our country around that time.
Yeah.
Don't need to marinate on it, but like, it wasn't the happiest time in the world. I don't think I need to clarify that for anyone. But after the stream stopped, I started the Vicious Syndicate podcast somewhere in there with Zach O. Zach wanted to do it, and we did it, and it was a great success right away. And then in September, this game called Hades came out, and boy, have I not been hooked by a game like that since Hearthstone. And so I started a third podcast, and I'm also kind of guest hosting on TAC sometimes, The Angry Chicken, and also I sometimes write for PC Gamer now. And all that stuff was possible in a year where I was furloughed and like leaving at 2:30 from my empty movie theater with no employees. And then this past week, last week I worked 7 days in a row, and I'm like, whoa, I don't know if I have time for 3 podcasts.
You're
But
just
here
taking
we
on
are.
a lot of projects, my guy. Like every single time that I'm seeing something that's like not necessarily like podcast related, but doing like articles, doing analytics, you're part of it to some degree.
I'm kind of a whore. Like,
Or for
people
Hearthstone
just
content.
ask me. Yeah, like, and
I
people
mean, I
ask
can
me, I'm like,
relate to
"Why
that.
don't you
I get that.
Yeah. Well, your year has been kind of crazy too. Like, you've really blown up in the new Trollden space, and you're emblematic of Penflinger. And I know I just collaborated with Raren and made a video about why that card should be nerfed into orbit. But you use it for good. You're not using it to try and and destroy people on turn 6 with Secret Passage. You're using it to try and find combos in 10 different classes, and so people are like, they go out of their way to tag you when they do something crazy. That's pretty cool that you've built that brand name up, and it wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for this past year.
Yeah, honestly, like kind of like what I was saying earlier, some people were able to start up projects, and right when the pandemic started, I was working at Guitar Center. I was doing call center. So if you were calling customer support, I was the person on the other side of the phone, and I had to try and help you out, whatever your problem was. Except when, like, I was really happy that I was able to keep my job, but the issue was at the very beginning, we had no idea what was expected of us working at home. Because if we had something to where we literally didn't know our entire aspect, and our supervisors were always answering questions for us. So like that just became like the norm if you didn't like have like all the knowledge and stuff like that. Cause like I'm a drummer. Like I don't know everything about keyboards. Like you literally have like a bubble around you in like the office space that you can ask people questions for. So like I had a guy that I would ask for like microphones and stuff like that I didn't know about. I literally had a guy that knew everything about everything. Like shout out to Tony if you're somehow watching this, my guy. But literally working at home, I had to ask a question to ask a question in so many different situations. And like just a personal trait about me, I do not work well if I don't know what I'm doing, because I don't like being a burden to other people, and I just like, I like showing up, doing my job, leaving. And that's not like to say I don't want to like socialize with anybody. I'm just professional like that. I just want to get in, get out, do my job, go home to my dog. That's it. And
That's the thing. That's not just personal either. It's having been in management. Like, I've been in the management side of things for, I think, 12 years, and you learn a lot about how people operate in customer service in general, which you can speak to, and then in management as well. The thing that people want to know is, what is my job, how am I doing, and what can I do differently if I need to? And so I'm a really big believer in that kind of reinforcement, but you have to have clarity and set expectations as to what is your job. Every time in the past I've had a bad job, it's been because my boss was an idiot and didn't know how to let me know what I was doing, or if I was doing the right thing or the wrong thing. I had a really nice guy that was a boss when I became the engineer job. Like, I just took that on as a complete transition from what I was doing.
yeah.
And every time I would say something, he's like, I think you're doing great. And it's like, that's not helpful, because I don't think I'm doing great, and I don't know what's supposed to be happening here. and it feels really different from my last job, and I need some guidance. And then he was replaced by someone that wasn't an idiot, who said, here's why I think you're doing great at this thing, and this thing. I would work on this other thing that you're doing. I would keep doing this thing. And here's what's expected of you, and you're doing well.
Yeah, and
that was so much clearer.
I had supervisors like that too. Like, the thing that really was upsetting about this particular instance was that literally our departments were being merged. Like, I literally was just outbound. So I would only call people. I would never be called unless somebody was trying to get a contact of me specifically. Because I was kind of like a client person. Like, I'd call you, say, hey, everything going all right with the stuff that arrived? No, like, damages, that kind of stuff. But then they made it to where they merged both departments, inbound and outbound. So I was taking calls, all that kind of other stuff. And it just became a completely different world. And then, like, literally 2 weeks after our departments merged, and like all of our teams and groups were changed around and whatnot, literally the pandemic struck. And like for the first week, while the country was trying to figure out what the hell to do, we were literally sitting in our cubicles being like, what's going on here, man? Like, not only is the world completely unknown, but our departments are completely kerfuffled. Like, everyone was completely out of their comfort zone, and it literally didn't make things easier that I had a boss that was like, oh, this whole thing's a hoax. Like, literally, I had somebody like that. It was Granted, it was at the beginning. You could be the most skeptical around that time, but it literally didn't help. It literally didn't help. He was literally talking about going to Las Vegas and trying to, like, take home all of this money and stuff like that. It's like, dude, come on. And on that sentiment, I'm cracking open a beer because, good Lord, people.
Yes, I think that's a wise decision. People don't quit their jobs; they quit their bosses. Every time I've thought about quitting, it's because of my direct boss, and it's always a good boss can't fix the responsibilities, but can make you feel appreciated and can go out of their way to interact with you. A great boss will make your life better by what they teach you. Yes. And I've been lucky enough to have some bosses that have been so good at their jobs that I learned how to be better at interacting with people outside of work because of how good they are at work. But on the other hand, when you have dumbass bosses, it just makes your life miserable because you fear going into work and you fear going home. Because you know when you go home, someone's probably got something for you to do. They're going to call you after you leave, or you worry about all the stuff that was supposed to get done that didn't, that you'll have to deal with the next day.
Yeah, and I had like, you know, a good experience at first. Like, I loved my team. I loved my supervisor, even though he did have his flaws, and we often made fun of him for it. I will go ahead and just, you know, be very open about that. But, like, I had a really good time working there. And then just, like, everything shifted. I started just having more of a drive to do this because, like, right around that time was when I had my PC. And you are definitely familiar with all the problems that I had trying to get this thing off the ground. And then after, like, literally 6 months of troubleshooting, it literally came down to the fact that I had a defective graphics card that wasn't performing at maximum capacity.
The problem wasn't that it was broken. The problem was that it was mostly not broken, and then when it did break, it was slightly different each time.
Yes.
And you couldn't make it happen the same way. And then we'd switch a cable or a port, and it'd be like, no, it's fine now. And then it wouldn't be fine a month later.
I know. It was just like, I don't know. It's like the moment that, like, it hit, like, a certain threshold, it would just be like, all right, everything stops. And sometimes that would happen with just, like, literally launching Hearthstone. And it's just like, this was, like, my biggest worry when, like, building a PC. Was like, oh god, something out of my control is gonna happen, and I'm gonna have to figure out all of these ways of troubleshooting it. And then literally, I did the recall or whatever, or I got a replacement for free, and
warranty,
the warranty, and it's worked like a charm. It's beautiful.
And it doesn't help, Clark, that you're kind of a boomer. It doesn't help.
It doesn't. No, I'm not good with technology. Like, I literally am just
people
now getting the handle of Discord.
I don't think people know that.
No, they don't.
Well, because you were using Discord in your web browser, and me and Lawful Dog had to give you shit for it, so you would finally download the Discord app.
Yes, that is 100% what happened, because I will 100% say that I'm like a boomer with technology, to where, like, all the apps on my phone, I don't need anymore. I don't want to download anything else, so whenever work tells me, hey, you should download this app or checking in and out, I'm like, God, no, you can't tell me to do that. I'm not downloading your damn app. Like, I don't know why I take it so seriously.
Flip phone. You got to get a flip phone and bring that in next time, and, like, T9 some people.
Walk in like Walter White, be like, it's just for business.
Could pull off the Walter White.
I mean, if I
No, you're more
shake
of a
my
Jesse
head,
Pinkman. You're more of a Jesse Pinkman.
100%, yes. When we're watching that show, I identified a lot more with Jesse. Like, oh god, I waited so long to actually turn on that show, and it was mainly because people were like, "Oh my god, watch it," and then I watched it, and then I literally told my brother, "Hey, watch it," and now he won't watch it. So it's like a vicious cycle, you know.
It's good television, and they ended when the show was good, as opposed to another show I can think of that rhymes with Thane of Gones. But we don't have to talk about it.
Oh my god, my girlfriend would hate you. Would hate you if we were to bring that up, because it's part of the reason why I don't watch the show is because I know that it has its ups and downs, but I also just don't like the pacing of the show personally. I've seen a few episodes. Granted, like out of context, it probably wasn't like a good experience with it. But one of these days, I'm gonna have to sit down and watch like at least a few episodes with her because she is such a huge fan. But it's also because she's like a Lord of the Rings fan. Like she's really big into that kind of genre.
Like, fantasy is cool. What I like about Game of Thrones is that it was a really high production value fantasy miniseries, like it's TV show. But every character's a total asshole, and I can't really engage with a show where every character's a total asshole. Just watch The Witcher. The Witcher is awesome. That was so
I've
good.
heard a ton about The Witcher, only good things, and the fact that they have
just watch The Witcher.
they have what, a show, a video game, and a movie. I think
The games, people like The Witcher 3 as a game. I didn't really engage with it. It was too, like, the combat wasn't great, and it was all so much side questing. But the TV series with Henry Cavill, excellent. Very, very good. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't have the attention span for it, and The Witcher captured me.
Yeah, I only watch like stuff on like Netflix every now and again. Like, and honestly, I kind of limit myself to only animations. I'm a huge fan of animations, so like Archer, South Park, like all of those, like Rick and Morty, Family Guy, everything like that. I'm a huge fan of. More recently,
Archer's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, Archer is. I got turned on to it in high school, and John Benjamin is my definition of a perfect voice actor. He could literally be in anything, and I will love it to death.
He was so good in Bob's Burgers. Did you watch any of Adam Reed's older stuff? Like, did you watch C-Lab or Frisky Dingo?
I didn't watch that, but I've seen a lot of stuff that he's cameoed in. Like, for example, he cameoed in Venture Bros.
Yeah.
I forget.
Which is also a great show.
Yes, I 100% would recommend that to anybody. I gotta watch the full thing. But I try to watch like as many different animations as possible. Real TV shows, it's kind of hard to reel me in. And that's part of the reason why I didn't watch Breaking Bad is because like another thing is like I see a TV show as a commitment, and if I'm going to watch it, I'm going to watch it. I'm not just going to like turn on a few seasons and then just like stop like picking it up. Like I will full on watch a TV show. I will no life it.
Have you watched Arrested Development?
A little bit. I have I think I've watched all the way up to season 4, and I don't know why I ended up
Stop. Do season 1 through 3, then stop and then start it over. 1 through 3 is a perfect block of television. My favorite run through is the third time through, because it really, really improves in it as a loop, because there's so much nested stuff going on in seasons 1 through 3. And so the third time, like the first time through, there's a lot going on and you get the surface jokes. The second time through, you're like, wait a minute, and you see some of the callbacks.
Yeah.
The third time through, it's like a roguelike. It's an old friend. You're familiar with the run through, and it really like pops off on every level.
See, and
then don't watch season 4 or 5 ever.
I actually watched all of BoJack Horseman before I watched any of Arrested Development.
Ooh.
And the most hilarious thing about that show is that anything that Job says literally sounds like a BoJack line. And I'm often like watching it on like a second screen, or I'm not 100% paying attention to it, and every now and again my brain's thinking, wait, I'm just watching BoJack. Because Will Arnett is just, oh my god, he is another voice actor that I absolutely love to death. Anything that he's in, except for that weird squirrel movie I've probably watched.
Yes, I vaguely remember the weird squirrel movie. It
was called Nut Job, I think. I think the movie was literally called Nut Job.
Yeah. Man, that was terrible. But it's Job in Arrested Development is a dumbass, and BoJack is not a dumbass. He's a smart person. He's just an asshole. That is some of the darkest television I've seen in like ever as well.
It is very, very dark. I'm not gonna go into like my problems and all of that, but like blah blah blah, depression, blah blah blah. You know.
Yeah.
All of
Same
that.
for me. We can give me 2 of those. I'll take one.
But
it's the View from Halfway Down. One of the best episodes of television ever.
It's actually the best. I'm gonna go ahead and just say it's the best. Lawful Dog will probably back me up with this as well, since you did bring him up. I I really don't know another person in the Hearthstone scene that loves BoJack as much as me and Lawful Dog. But literally, that is one of the best episodes of like just of all time. Like, BoJack Horseman does such a good job at talking about topics that people can't talk about very well, and they do it literally. They literally give it to you real. They don't give it to you like oh god, what's like a show that really isn't good at like talking about that kind of like I think 13 Reasons Why is the first thing I can think of. They literally try to go down this direction of talking about these problems that everyone has issues with, but they did such a crap job that it didn't register, and their points were actually proven in reverse of what they were actually trying to say. And
13 Reasons Why is a show about problems, and BoJack is a show about people.
yes.
And people with problems are going to be a lot more deep than just talking about the problems themselves.
And if you focus on the problems itself, it's very easy to exaggerate them. If you focus on the people, then the people can be exaggerated, but what they did and their actions are still, what's tangible and what can be, examined. But yeah, BoJack Horseman is always a show that I recommend to anybody that's looking for an interesting animation, because I've tried to turn on some of my friends to it, and they literally can't get past the horses and the animals and whatnot. And I'm like, that's what's stopping you? But literally the animals. But the first episode is kind of rough if you're not used to that stuff.
If you're paying attention to the animations and not what the characters are saying, then the show is not going to connect and not going to land, because it's the set dressing is almost irrelevant. It lends a distinct flair, but that's not. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Well, okay, it does matter because the animal jokes literally made me fall in love with the show.
Well, sure. It's funny, and you can it creates a context where people, the writers can engage and have fun, but the meat of the show, the depth of the show is all the people stuff, and that would translate well, except if you had actual people saying that, it would be too dark to land.
And it's also
so it adds a little bit of levity.
It's also about the dialogue too, because also in that same season, Free Churro, the funeral episode, literally that is nothing but dialogue. That is just one really long monologue, brilliantly done by Will Arnett. And it's just like, and it's actually kind of funny, because in the previous episode, BoJack actually says there shouldn't be that much talking in TV. TV is a visual medium. So I just absolutely love the writers doing stuff like that. But it's just like case in point to where, like, what you said, the meat and the potatoes, like the core thing of what you're supposed to be paying attention to, is really freaking good if you pay attention to it. Takes a little bit of time, and maybe got to get over a few awkward things, but that's kind of the point of the show. Like, the creators have often said that they often pose questions that they themselves don't know the answers to. Like, I have watched so many interviews. It's so great.
And you have to be in the right kind of mental state to watch the show, because if you watch it when you're down, then it does not help.
I've watched it at varying emotional times in my life. Yes, 100%. I mean, it's almost like alcohol. Like, you don't drink alcohol when you're like immediately depressed, because then it's just gonna make it worse. Versus where if you're fun and wanting to have a good time like we are right now, maybe a little bit of alcohol can boost that.
Well, it's a lot easier to be in a positive mindset when things in the world at large seem to be a little bit more positive, and the weather's getting warmer, and like we have stuff to do. It's a little bit easier. We wouldn't be having the same kind of conversation at November. We wouldn't have had the same conversation in November.
Yes, and that is actually something else that I always talk about, is like seasons do matter, dude. Because like during the winter, I am so antisocial. If it is cold, I am not leaving my house. And my girlfriend absolutely loves like all kinds of weather. She just loves being outside, but she loves snow in particular. And it's just like a classic like Kitty and Red from that 70s show, where she's like, "Oh, this is like so happy," and I'm just like, "No, I fucking hate everything. Everything is terrible, and I'm critically analyzing everything. Snow causes all these accidents, babe. Why are you celebrating? Why are you literally dancing in murder right now?"
Yeah, I've lived in the Northeast my whole life, and snow has been a fact of life for the whole thing, and it's always sucked. It's always been terrible. And this was a hard winter, of course, for a lot of reasons, but I'm glad that it's winding down. I'm glad that it's over and the snow is all gone.
Yes. And moving on to new things and whatnot. There's actually one question that I ask every guest. Well, kind of two questions, unrelated actually. But the first thing that I just wanted to ask is, what exactly brought you to Hearthstone? Like, what was your first experiences with the game, and what made you stick with it? Like, what turned you on to Hearthstone?
So, I am a Magic the Gathering player from a very young age, which is an answer that I'm sure you get a lot. I remember playing it in the 90s at summer camp. I had a Mercine deck that was not very good. Don't bother looking up that card. It wasn't good and isn't good. And early in high school, my sophomore year, I think, I had some friends that I made that were, I was looking for friends in high school because high school sucks, and made some friends with Magic guys, and we went to the pre-release for Apocalypse. So I think this was 2001. God, I'm so old.
Wait, so you're in high school in 2001? I actually don't know how old you are.
Yes. I was born in 86, so I turn 35 this year.
Oh my god, you're 10 years older than me. I didn't know that.
Yeah, gross. Okay, I'm going to drink this beer. Yes, I am 10
man,
years older than you, I guess.
I'm 24, about to be 25, so yeah.
Ugh,
People
my
think
back
I'm older
hurts
than I
more.
actually am, but that's just because the hair. Hair deceives people.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm starting to lose some up here, so that won't deceive anybody. But yeah, it was the Apocalypse pre-release, and it hooked me, and I was at an old enough age, and the internet it existed. So I started getting more and more into Magic then, and I played it for a long time, 10, 15 years, various brushes with being a pro Magic player, which is as unhealthy of a lifestyle as you can get, and it was not healthy for me, even if it was healthy for other people, which I don't think it was. So I got the job with the movie theater in 2007, and movie theaters are big on nights and weekends because we're busy when people are not working, and Magic tournaments are nights and weekends, Friday nights and Saturdays, and
Typical.
I couldn't do it.
Typical.
Yeah. So couldn't do them. Magic Online technically existed. It still technically exists. Horrible program. Go ahead and look at what it looks like now.
Wait,
It looked about
Magic
the same back then,
Esports,
which is
or...
no Magic Online, like actual Magic Online, made by Wizards of the Coast. It looks like it belongs in Windows 3.1. Like the UI is
Oh my god,
atrocious.
dude,
It's so bad.
This looks like what Duel Links used to be.
Yes.
And that was like really bad. And honestly, I didn't play that much Duel Links, but I can't even. Like, you have to pretty much know what these arts are. Like, just kind of
Yes.
looking at this.
You have to, and there was a virtual judge, but you had to know how everything worked. It was an experience for people that wanted to play paper Magic online, not people that wanted to learn Magic. If you did Magic online, it was because you were already addicted and you needed your fix at home. So I did some of that for a while, but it's expensive because it's physical cards and whatever. That is
Yep.
okay. So the
This
the
is what I
screenshot you
saw.
sent me is very small, right? Like it's obviously larger than that, but yes, that is what we're dealing with here. It was terrible. So I played it on and off for a few years, and then I remember I had an iPad that I got through work, and I wasn't really using it for much. And the Hearthstone iPad, I think it was either the iPad release or the open beta, I forget what. It came out, and I was like, all right, I'll try it. And that was back when Soulfire cost 0. And so I built
glory
Zoo.
days. I never played
Yeah.
during that.
It was so at 0 mana Soulfire was.
Wait,
was
hold on.
good.
When was
Good
your mana Soulfire? When did that become 1 mana? Because I played.
It was.
Go ahead.
It was shortly after. So it's in Classic that we're getting. It is 0 mana. So I think it was later that year, later in 2014.
Okay, because I started playing. It was after Noxramas came out, before GVG came out. That was when I hopped on the Hearthstone train. So it was shortly after beta.
So Soulfire got nerfed in December 2014.
Okay, so I do actually remember the 0 mana Soulfire days then, because I technically played in September, I believe.
Yes. And so Undertaker was still really busted when
Yep.
you started.
That's what started the Hunter PTSD. Not gonna lie, like ever since that one deck, I have not been able to look at the class any different, and it's mainly because at the beginning I only had so many cards to play with. I tried to make control decks work, And I watched a lot of Kripparrian videos, so I was under the influence that, ooh, aggro is terrible, control's the only good thing in Hearthstone. I was a pure elitist at the very beginning, I'm not going to lie. I took gaming very seriously back when I was a kid. But regardless, yeah, I only wanted to play control decks, and that deck would always stomp on me. I would never have my brawls when I need them, and Baron Rivendare, I'm sorry, Baron Geddon was only so good against Hunter back then.
Yeah, for some reason a 7-drop can't kill a 1-drop that grows out of range of Baron Geddon by turn 2.
That was my best legendary outside of like Grom. Like I tried to play some Wallet Warrior.
Those are good cards. You can do it, but it was fighting with the hand tied behind your back. So I didn't play a lot during then. I signed in for the beta, and I was still like very much a Magic player. So I got it, and I played for like a week or whatever. It's like, all right, that's kind of cool. I'll come back to it eventually. And then when the phone client came out, and I started playing it on my computer, and like, okay, it syncs to my phone. It's like, all right, this can be my game now. I can do this now, because what I wanted was a Magic that I could play conveniently. And this is something that I'm just going to say it. What I loved about Hearthstone is how inexpensive it was. Because I was playing Magic Online. So I sold one deck from Magic Online and bought every deck in Hearthstone. Bought everything for like $200. I just bought it all. I had Wallet Warrior, and I had Mid-Range Combo Druid, and I had Aggro Paladin. I was playing Divine Favor Aggro Paladin. So I'm like, I don't remember. I just had everything. And I was so used to the world of paper cards, which is expensive.
Yes.
That I just sold one deck and got there and just had a collection. All of a sudden, could play whatever I wanted. It could be for 5 minutes. It could be for 4 hours. It could be however long I had, wherever I was, however long I wanted it to be. And so I just played a little every day. And I did kind of okay. I was really hyper fixated on Wallet Warrior at the time because I remember losing to it a bunch, and I really wanted to do it. So crafted the Shield Slams and the Brawls and the Grom and the Alex and the Ysera and the Sylvanas and the Ragnaros and the Dr. Boom. And Secret Paladin was good back then, so I lost a bunch. I got Golden Warrior before I got Legend the first time. And then finally I switched. So I was like, I just want to get Legend. So I switched to Fel Reaver Aggro Druid.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
With eggs. It was a Jackie Chan special.
I was about to say, that was like the, oh, God, that was when you put an Arabian egg in literally every single deck that was aggro.
Yep. And Living Roots, I think it just come out. But
yes,
yeah, it was,
yes, it did.
There was the game I got Legend. I started with Coin, Innervate, 3/2 Knife Juggler, double Living Roots for tokens, and I Savage Roar on turn 3 and won. And my opponent said, now that you're Legend, get AIDS and kill yourself. So, I really had made it.
There you got the full Hearthstone experience.
Yep. And so that was the first deck I got Legend with. That was late 2014, 2015. I don't remember. A long time ago.
God, I didn't get Legend until 2016. That was with wait, no, it was either 2015 or 2016. But I did it with Aggro Shaman. It was during Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, actually. So that was 2015,
so that I think
right?
would have been a year later.
Yes.
Because Fel Reaver was in GVG, and I know that Blackrock Mountain had just come out, but the Grand Tournament hadn't yet. No, the Grand Tournament had just come out. Yeah, I got Legend during the Grand Tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got it during Mean Streets, which I think was right after the Grand Tournament. If I remember
it was the year after, because there was LOE was after.
Right.
Yeah, League of Explorers was after the Grand Tournament, and then it was Whispers, and then it was Karazhan.
Okay,
and
yeah, I'm skipping a whole bunch. I used to have like all of the expansions on lock, but now it's been so long, and just it's hard to remember it now.
This was 6-7 years ago. Like, it's been a while.
I know, right? It's whack to think of that. I literally started playing Hearthstone when I was in high school.
Yeah, I literally started playing Hearthstone when you were in high school. Ugh, I'm so old. But yeah, it's so basically working nights and weekends, needed a Magic replacement, found Hearthstone better, play Hearthstone, still play Hearthstone.
Yeah, and so like what made you really stick with it like over Magic the Gathering? Because like you were talking about how it was kind of inexpensive, and that is actually something that I wanted to bring up earlier. Is that everyone talks about like how expensive Hearthstone is becoming recently, and I'm not gonna lie, it is a lot more expensive than it used to be. But I still think compared to other card games, it's not nearly as expensive as it could be, because a lot of people don't realize that like one competitive Magic the Gathering deck is. Would you help me price out like a common Magic deck that's actually competitively viable? Like, how much money would you think you need to get started?
It's a bunch of money, but here's the thing: being a cheap card game but an expensive video game is still not a good thing. If Magic were to launch as a new game today, it would instantly fail. The exact same game, exact same everything, but a new game instead of an IP that people have been playing for 25 years. If it launched today, it would instantly fail, and people would be like, what is this model? They tried it with Artifact, and Artifact was a worse game. But if you just took Magic right now and like changed the name of the cards, but everything functioned exactly the same way, nobody would play it. Because it's the reason that Magic survives is because it made a genre 27 years ago, 28 years ago, 28 years ago. Good Lord. And so it made a genre that didn't exist, and it's a great game. It's a really, really good game with a lot of depth and a lot of complexity. It was the first one in the series, the first one in the genre. But it's only because of the inertia and perpetuity that it still has the market share that it does, despite the cost issues. And you'll notice that MTG Arena, the online client, does not have any of the secondary market stuff because it doesn't work anymore. The only reason it works in Magic is because Magic's been around. You try and make a new game with a secondary market, it fails. Artifact, Gods Unchained. How many people you hear talking about Gods Unchained these days? Nobody.
People that get sponsored by them. That's about it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I stuck with Hearthstone in part because of the accessibility, and I do think the core set is helping, though I do still think it's going to be an expensive game, and I have said as such, and I'm glad they're working on it, but they've needed to for a while. But Hearthstone also has the polish that keeps me coming back to it. Something that I've cared more about as I've gotten older and as I've played more games. How your user experience functions, how snappy the controls are, is a world of difference. And Hearthstone has some animation issues. It's not perfect. But when I play the cards, I feel them. They go where I want them to go. It's responsive. It's clean. It's polished. It feels fun. They all have fun voice lines, and the cards and effects and animations all look good. It's enjoyable to interact with, and I feel like my interactions have meaning and weight to them.
I think that's a really good point about Hearthstone interactivity, because the best part about the game is, I mean, a lot of games are doing this, especially in the card game scene, but like you play the card, it does the action for you. Versus like in old Yu-Gi-Oh games, you played a trap card, and then every single time there was a new phase, you had to click no on the trap because you didn't want to play you didn't want to destroy your own spells. And doing that every single turn is it literally turns people off. Like, you don't want to just like create like a user experience that's either clunky, that's repetitive, or is going to annoy the player to not want to play your game. And sometimes, like, especially when you like look at a game like Artifact, like you were referencing earlier, I was so confused at literally just watching the game that I couldn't even imagine what it was like playing it. And then you're telling me I have to spend like $50 in order to get into it. Like, there's just too many negatives in that situation. Yeah, like I remember everybody up talking Artifact when it came out, because I was literally I was at DreamHack Atlanta during its release. All the Tempo Storm guys were talking about how they were gonna maybe switch careers, KW, to this game, and a lot of them.
How'd that work out for him?
Well, I mean, Muzzy had played it. I had plans on like hanging out with Muzzy, Lead Paint, and I think Nosedom as well. Oh wait, no, it wasn't Nosedom. It was SoFlo. It was SoFlo. Yeah.
Ooh, there's some old school names right there.
Yeah.
Been a minute.
I know, right? It's been forever since I've seen those guys. But yeah, I was gonna hang out with them, and like we were just gonna chill or something like that, and then they're like, "Oh, sorry, we're just gonna chill in our hotel room and just play Artifact." So it's like, oh, okay.
I mean, it was a thing. It looked like it had support because people thought Valve was still a video game company, not Steam. Like, they didn't think it was just a Steam company.
Yeah.
And how could this game be that bad? They found a way, right? Like, they found a way. And you can't... If you want to manufacture a game that's designed to target people that are looking to grind a competitive something, you can make a game like Runeterra, and I think Runeterra is about as close as they've gotten. And Runeterra is a game that's super polished, has the best digital limited format of any game I've seen. I respect it a lot. I want to enjoy it. And every time I play it daily for 3 or 4 days and then forget to log in and then never log in again. And then someone else brings it up and I'm like, I'm going to do it again. I log in 3 or 4 days. And it never holds my interest, even though I can speak to the positive things the game does. And I've tried so many times to articulate why it doesn't connect with me, but I can't really speak to it. I just don't want to play it. And I don't think that I don't judge anyone that does want to play it, but every time I have tried to enjoy it, I just don't want to play it anymore.
No, I totally
And
get that.
yeah, and it's heavily targeted at people that want to grind something more something competitive that has a more rich esports system than Hearthstone. And I don't know if Runeterra will end up having that because esports loses money, and it's not really something that I think people should generally focus on. Not just Hearthstone, by the way. In general, I think esports is a giant trap, but that's neither here nor there. I'm sure we'll talk about this later in the episode, probably extensively if I had to guess. But if you want to make a game that targets grinders, you do something like Runeterra. You can't do something like Artifact, where it's just so fiddly. That game is made exclusively for Stan Cifka and nobody else. Like, Stan Cifka loved that game, and nobody else enjoyed it. But you can't just make a game for Stan Cifka versus Life Coach.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Not everyone's gonna be like Omega Genius at your game, and like, kind of like what you were saying earlier about like going back to a game. Like, I am always peeking at the Yu-Gi-Oh meta. I'm like, is there any way that I can like maybe jump back on this really like I'm just gonna say it's a ship that is in the middle of a storm, because good lord, Yu-Gi-Oh is shifting all the time depending on what they add and what they remove from the ban list. Like, what old strategies are gonna come back and haunt these new players with like fusion summons and crap like that. And that was back. That was back when like
current Wild players to go play Yu-Gi-Oh for a week and then come back to Wild and see if their perspective changes. Because you think you know Broken in Hearthstone.
Oh my god, yeah, dude. Oh my, Yu-Gi-Oh. If there was no ban list in Yu-Gi-Oh, I literally saw a video about this. It would be nothing but it would be an FTK meta. Like, who can get their first
exclusively first turn kills.
Like, like, do you build the big board first? Do you do your combo of just drawing nothing because Pot of Greed, broken card? Like, good fucking god, dude. Like, I'm not gonna. I don't want to like say like a hot take here, but this is a podcast, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say it.
Go ahead. No. You put it out there.
I put it out there.
You put it out there.
I put it out there, so now I have to say it. What you pretty much said about the Hearthstone WoW community is very, very vocal, because like every single time, like even with like these changes that have happened, I've already heard people complaining about the cards, like about Quest Rogue, about all this other stuff, and it's like, first off, we don't have all the variables yet. Can we wait until we have all the pieces in front of us before we say that this puzzle is broken? Before we say that all the pieces aren't there? Because like, yes, these cards have been broken in the past. Yes, all of this was really, really annoying to go up against back in the day, but you just, what's gonna make you happy? Like, at the end of the day, what's gonna make you happy? If you were in control of the game, what's gonna make you happy? And if your answer is I don't know, and you still like get mad every single time a card is changed, I'm sorry, but your opinion just lost a little bit of weight, because you don't have any offers, or I'm sorry, any suggestions to bring to the table. And if you're gonna complain every single time, what do you expect?
So, how much Wild do you play?
I play enough Wild, and that's really, really objective to some people, but like, I play enough to where if I could get Legend, I could, but I don't want to play the top decks. Like, the top decks right now are Secret Mage, Reno Priest, Darkglare Warlock, and to a lesser extent Kingsbane. But those have all been decks that people have been playing for quite literally years. Except for, I guess, Darkglare Warlock is a little bit different.
And
but like,
Kingsbane wasn't good until they printed a bunch of cards that made it way better.
It was fringe good, but yes, with the inclusion of poison, it definitely boosted it up.
Well, and Secret Passage was kind of nutty.
That
like, didn't exist before August of last year.
But
Wild is an interesting place. But so here's the thing, I'm not saying you're wrong that the feedback is disjointed at best, because I think that's fair to say. I chose to stop playing Wild because I wasn't enjoying the format. You could play more, but you aren't enjoying the format. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't rhyme or reason to why Blizzard's doing what they're doing. Their approach to the format is not based on results, it's based on process. In Standard, if something is too good, they nerf it. In Wild, if something is too good, they leave it alone. That is their approach. Their approach is not results-oriented, not based on what the format looks like. It's based on how they approach it. So it's entirely about hands-on, hands-off. Not is the meta good, is the meta bad. Because they don't evaluate the meta. They say if the meta is imbalanced, we let players figure it out. We let them do what they want to do, because we don't touch cards in this format. But if we both play less because the format's less fun, and that's the sentiment that you hear a bunch, it's got to say something, right? It's got to mean something.
Well,
Now, I don't know what it means, but it's got to mean something.
Well, it doesn't help that they don't incentivize the format. Like, you could still argue to a degree that if you wanted to pick up Hearthstone competitively, there's one of two ways of doing that. You do open cups, or you grind the ladder to ridiculous amounts in order to somehow qualify for these tournaments. Versus Wild has no reason to play the format unless you just really like Wild. And I don't think that that's a business model that's very, very healthy, except for, like it's kind of like what you were saying earlier. Like, the only reason why I believe Wild is good is because people like old Hearthstone cards. They want to be able to play the cards that they had back in the day, and it's literally only for those people. It's not really for the new people that are picking up the game, because it's way out of their price range half the time. Like, you have to get all of these expansions that you were around for. But like, they just need to give us a reason to play that format. It just
Do they? They don't. The format's stable. It has the same number of players all the time. They don't need to do anything in the same.
But it could have
playing
more. It could have more players.
Maybe, but you alienate the people by changing cards. If the current behavior has a stable population, why would you mess with that with a non-premier format? Wild is not a premier format. They have tried to publicize it in the past. It hasn't worked.
But they tried once, though. They tried once. I wouldn't really say that they tried. Like,
But
okay,
they
it was
have
like
a really
twice.
stable
They
player
did it
base.
twice. They had two
Like,
Wild
for
opens,
years. For years, they've had the same number of people that have played the format, roughly the same number. Some people come in, some people go out. But I asked them about it in the last group interview that I did with Ben Lee and Nathan Lyon Smith, and they were like, yeah, we have a really, really stable player base, and we have for years. And this is actually what they talked about with Arena as well. With Arena, they talked about, we can make new modes that appeal to Arena players, but if we change the foundation of Arena, we run the risk of not bringing anybody in. We alienate the people that have been playing this way to play Hearthstone for years. If you change the foundation, then you run into risks. Wild and Arena are formats that are based around harder foundations where you know what you're getting into. Now, I stopped playing Wild because I wasn't enjoying it as much, but if they have a very stable population, maybe that's what they're aiming for here, and there are other formats that are coming that are going to try and address that. And they do also have these reversions that are coming, which are super cool. But when you say competitive focus, here's the hot take back to your hot take. The real leaderboard for Hearthstone is the front page of Twitch. That if you were trying to compete via esports in Hearthstone, you are probably making a mistake unless you are using it to start content creation, because esports in general is a bad thing to focus on in any game, and in Hearthstone especially, it's not a good return on investment on your time.
That's a very fair point. Like, return investments and having it be, worth the, not only just the initial investment, but just like the time that you put into it is very, very crucial. Because, I mean, every single time I talk about what I want the Wild scene to be, I always reference the China scene. Because, obviously the China scene is a lot larger and there's a lot of other things that are going for it. But, like, they have a tournament mode, they have actual incentive to play the format, and they have, like, they actually have, I would say, a more active community that often finds these really awesome meta-breaking decks. Like, I'm pretty sure that both Turtle Mage and Majordomo Rogue came from the Chinese scene originally, before eventually being picked up by somebody in the West, and it became popularized through there. But I would want to see something that gives people who grind the game some kind of incentive to just like for example, just being highlighted on like a professional broadcast or something like that. Like, you don't have to do it every single like month or something like that, but like if Wild literally had an event like the Wild Open at least once a year, it would give more people a reason to pick up the format, and it would also give a reason for the people that play the game all the time, such as Twitch streamers. It would give them more content to make, because like I said, the only thing that they have is the fact that they really love the format, and there's no other reason to pick it up aside from that, unless you're like a Twitch streamer that's just trying to just, entertain people with the best decks.
I mean, content, if you look at content creation, especially YouTube, which I think is the largest audience, who are the biggest YouTube streamers? The biggest constructed YouTube streamer is RidiculousHat. He's a lovely guy. He does not play meta decks.
No.
He plays whatever he wants in standard, because in order to be a good content creator, it's not about playing whatever the meta is, it's about playing whatever you want and developing a niche and a voice and having kind of a consistent personality that people are engaging with. So you can do that in Wild too. And you've seen Zeddy, for example, made a really good name for himself. Now, I don't agree with a lot of the takes that he had on the economy stuff, But he's built a very distinctive personality. When people tune in, they know what they're getting with him. And if you want to see Wild, you can see him talk about Wild. You can do the same thing with Corbett and Getmeowth over on their podcast there. And it's all about understanding their approach to the format. You can appeal to competitive players. But if you appeal to competitive players, how many competitive Wild players, English-speaking Wild players, are there? Assuming both NA and EU combined. Probably 1,000 people each server-ish? 2,000 people? How many YouTube views does Regis have? Like 150K views or something? Like thousands per video. If you just try and appeal to competitive, you're appealing to the legend ladder. And all of a sudden, as soon as you stop being good in their eyes, they stop watching you because they're not watching you, they're watching your rank. If you are a person, if you're a personality and you have something to bring to the table, like you found with your pen flinging, then people watch you because you're you, and that's a lot more reliable, a lot more consistent. If you're looking at high-level competitive Wild play, there's going to be a few people that get that. But Wild in general is kind of a more tribal format where people have different perspectives on it. That's kind of where the issues come up because there's no consistent opinion on what people actually want because there's no Wild community. There's a bunch of different people that want a bunch of different things. The China server has more Wild players because the East-West player dynamic is so different. Ixar has talked about this on Twitter. In China, they don't want their cards messed with. They want their cards to stay the same. And they play Wild because that's where that happens. If your deck is too good and you learn Quest Mage or whatever, they don't nerf it. Or they make one nerf a year. And then you keep that deck and that's your deck and it stays the same.
Okay. All right.
You can
That's
learn
actually
it,
a
and you
really
can play
good,
it.
really good fact that I did not know.
Right? The way the players interface with the game is different. So it's not that Blizzard is doing anything different in China. It's that that community, those players, seem to enjoy Wild more for what it is. And in the West Coast, we get a lot of vocal people that don't, but I don't know if that's everybody, and it's such a small piece of the pie anyways, that clearly there's some aspect of the format and people don't engage with as much. Now, I don't mean to speak for the Wild community. I don't play the format all that much. And all I know is that whenever anything happens in Wild, there's always someone that's really high on it and someone that's really low, and there's always Twitter drama talking about it because the format is... people have different ideas about what they want it to be, and that is a place where the defined process that Blizzard has of we're not going to touch this format, people extrapolate what they want from that. They extrapolate different things, and there's a lot of combative opinions. It's not going to be the same every time you see it. In Standard, there are combative opinions, but at least Blizzard is clear about what they're doing. In Standard, if something is broken, they're going to change it, probably quickly. And they've been really clear about that, and they'll tweet about it. In Wild, something is broken, unless it's really format warping really fast, like Wretched Tiller or Dark Glare and Skullomance after they print Raised Dead and Flesh Giant and Penflinger and Animated Broomstick. Skullomance was a good set.
Yeah.
After they do all that stuff, then if it's not format warping, they're just going to leave it. And that's how it is. Now, should it be that way? I don't know. Is it that way? Yes. What does that mean for the format? I have no idea. I haven't been playing it. I don't miss it. I'm not going to say it couldn't be fun. I'm not going to say it hasn't been fun for me in the past. I'm going to say that I got what I wanted out of it and I play other stuff.
That's a fair point to take, honestly. Like, I would play more Wild if, one, there was more incentive, like I said earlier, but that's just because competitive drives me personally. Like, that's what I want out of card games, and that's partly why I really got heavily into Hearthstone was because I love tournaments and I love being able to play the game at its quote-unquote optimal level. But my problem with Wild at the moment is that the optimal level is just straight up not fun. Like, you could argue that Reno Priest is kind of fun, a little bit, if you're behind the wheel, but literally going up against all of these other decks just is not a good time. I would rather bang my head against the wall than play Secret Mage because it's Secret Mage. I don't think
I'm right there with you. Like, it's the gameplay isn't enjoyable to me, so I don't do it. And if a bunch of people are saying that, I don't know the greater consensus. I don't have access to the data. I don't mean to say that I speak for any number of players. I know that you and I have the same opinion, which is we play it less because it's less fun. And in the past, we've had more fun. And theoretically, you'd think they'd want more people to have more fun. Are more people having more fun elsewhere? I don't know. They can't measure fun. I stopped playing it because it sucks. So, like, make it suck less and I'll play it more. But I don't know if that's their goal or if they'd rather stick with their process approach of we want a place where people can play something broken and we don't change it. But I've been putting more time into other aspects of Hearthstone and other video games, so who am I to judge? And the thing that I think is most important to take away, and I'll circle this back to esports as well, and I'll circle this back to Arena, where people say they have to do something. I love that sentence because no, they don't. No, they absolutely don't. You know when they say Hearthstone esports is dying, they have to do something. The qualifiers are full. They fill up the invites every single Masters tour. You say they have to do something, but every time they cut something, they never run out of people to play in the events. Nobody stops playing in the qualifiers. It's not like they've ever had a qualifier where nobody signed up because they didn't want to.
Well,
The people that are
to counteract that, though, the amount of people that are signing up for qualifiers is not nearly as high as it used to be, because it used to be that the Open Cups would be so full that nobody could get in it. But now, like, if you look, especially like the Asia Cups, like I actually signed up for NA and there was probably like maybe like 700, 800 people. I don't know how it is in EU, but in the Asia scene, it's lucky if those cups go anywhere between like 400 to 600 people. Like,
oh no, only 600 people. What'll we do?
Well,
Remember that they raised the cap from 512 to 1024 because of COVID. And now as people go back to work in the rest of the world where they have dealt with coronavirus, they aren't grinding Open Cups all weekend. But also, if your Open Cup only gets 500 people, oh no, what will we do?
But it's like compared to what it used to be, though. Like, it used to always be very high. And it wasn't always because of that, because not only like the changes to like to YouTube and all of that, but it was just like, I'm not saying that it necessarily became inaccessible, but something happened to where there are significantly less people signing up now, and you have to at least be able to think about that, because there's a reason people are leaving, whether that is there's less accessibility, whether that is they can't watch it or they're not enjoying it or their favorite people are no longer playing anymore because relegations. Like, there is something that is making people leave, and that is a fact.
But that happens. So remember March of 2020, March last year, they expanded qualifiers, right? They added a round, 1024. So the old cap was 512, and what you're telling me is that Asia qualifiers would hit that old cap, right?
Yes, they would.
512. Okay. And before that, before COVID March, we were flirting with that cap most qualifiers. We weren't always hitting it, but we were usually hitting it. It's not so much that there's a giant loss. It's that there was a big jump from people's experience being so different during Rona, and then we're dropping back to where it was before. Now, I'm not going to say the program appears to be healthy. The optics are awful. It looks like it's being abandoned. But every time they cut, every time they take away more, people are still signing up. We're still filling up the Masters tours. They have room to shrink, and the next person up always wants more. If someone posts a twit longer and they're out, there's still someone winning the next qualifier the same day. So when people say they have to do something, they don't. They could push it more, but the return on investment on them spending more money in esports and getting more people into it is non-existent. There's no improvement to Hearthstone's bottom line by having more esports, because esports is marketing and they've had more effective ways of marketing. So they don't need to spend more on it. They don't need to spend more on Wild. They don't need to change Wild. They don't need to change Arena. They could, but the idea that the developers need to, for any particular reason, these populations are stable and they're not going anywhere. So the need for change is limited. They keep changing their premier formats in Standard and Battlegrounds to invigorate people logging in and seeing what's going on. And those are healthy formats. And I like some of the other formats are stable. You know what you're getting. I'm not logging in to play a lot of Wild, but I had a Druid quest and I had a win 5 ranked games quest and I had a busy week last week. And so I logged in on Sunday. Token Druid, baby. Get it. Cleared 5 games in 10 minutes. Like, fine. Easy. Got it. It was enjoyable. It's not a tier 1 deck. I conceded to Flak Mages. I beat the other decks. Like, it's fine. And that was fun. That was enough. Right? I like the same thing with Duels. And Duels has gotten minimal support since it started. I like the mode. It's a secondary mode. It's clearly not their primary focus. I enjoy it for what it is. Do they have to change it? No. They don't. They could. But they don't need to.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we could agree on, though, is that maybe they don't have to work harder, but I believe they should work smarter. Like, case in point, I don't know how this is possible, but get Hearthstone esports back on Twitch. Like, it's not even necessarily about, like viewership and stuff like that, but it's literally just accessibility. Like, the amount of people that literally say they won't watch it because it's not on Twitch. And, like, I think that's such an immature stance to take. It's like, it's literally a different freaking platform. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel.
On YouTube?
I have watched it on YouTube, and I was about to circle back to that. I was about to circle back to that. Like originally, like those people that are saying they don't want to watch it on YouTube because they just, they haven't actually tried it. That's something different. But then you are someone like me who loves Hearthstone esports and honestly just could fall asleep to Hearthstone casting. I'm just wired like that. I absolutely love just broadcasts and whatnot. But like then you do go over to YouTube and then it's filled with audio issues. It's filled with a bunch of chats that are unmoderated, but you can always close the chat, so that's not really something you can 100% focus on. But it's still
and let's not say that Twitch had a good chat.
Yes,
let's not
exactly.
say Twitch had a good chat ever.
Never. But like the point is like, not only did the viewership get cut, but like now the actual stream itself is lower quality, and it's just like, I don't know, man. Like you just, that needs to come back to Twitch because it's not only gonna get.
Why does it need to? Why does it need to?
Because it's going to bring more people to want to actually play the game. Like the best way to promote your game is to at least to promote a card game, in my opinion. If you want to be able to show people that, hey, there's a reason to pick up this game. Hey, there's a reason that you want to be able to learn these card interactions, and here's the reason why. These players are playing these decks to the best capability, and all it is going to invite more people in order to see the game in that aspect. Because there's always a bunch of people that are going to find ways of wanting to play the game for fun. But then even if you don't play the game in a competitive way yourself, there are still some people that want to know what's the best thing to play. Like I don't want to just know that aggro rogue is the best deck. I want to see how people are playing the best deck. And if they make it to where it's more supported and the ecosystem is more friendly towards promoting it on Twitch, I really believe that it would just bring more people to the game because it also makes it look like the game scene is very active versus where people see the views on YouTube and they're like, oh, lol, Hearthstone dead game. Like it just brings more legitimacy to it, in my opinion.
Game counts are going up. People are playing more, right? Like game counts are going up. So, if you are already from the perspective of watching this deck get played, I want to see how it gets played, you are already invested. If you know what a deck is and you know that you have opportunity to see it played better than how you play it, you are already invested. New players aren't going to go to the Grandmasters broadcast anywhere and be like, this is a game I understand and will make me play better. Like that's just not going to happen. The way to make the game more accessible, make battlegrounds. That's what they did, and that's been more successful than any esports broadcast ever. That's how people are getting into Hearthstone these days. It's BGs. Because it's free, and it's an amazing game, a second game inside our first game. It's a separate game that's inside our first game. People download it to play BGs, and then they dabble over on the other side. The free core set's going to help. The Book of Heroes is going to help a lot, because Book of Heroes unlocks classes, which you use with the new core set to get entire decks. And for free, pretty rad. So the way to advertise your game is to make it freer and make something like BGs, which is super addictive the first time you play it. Hearthstone esports broadcasts in general, they've been decreasing across most games, if not all games, because they're not effective marketing. And so Hearthstone, it's even more clear because we see the switch from Twitch to YouTube. But bringing that was not a marketing tool. That was advertising to people that are already buying the product, right? That's handing out coupons to people that are already in your restaurant. You need to get people that don't know about your food.
Fair point.
It needs to be different. So they struck gold with BGs. It's also why they're making Mercenaries, which is like Hearthstone Pokemon or whatever from what we know. We don't know very much about it. But they're diversifying because you want to make something you download to your phone that you can play a bunch of different things in it, and most of them are mostly free. And then they get you with a little thing here and there. Just a little thing here and there. Get you with your BG perks. Or maybe you're playing BGs like, hey, come over to Constructed. The water's nice. Give us your money. And it ends up being really fun. But esports is not effective marketing, and that's why you've seen such a decrease in it over the past 2 years. It doesn't go anywhere, and Riot has advertised. They've bragged about how much money they're losing on it. Because Riot wants to be that company. They can do it. They have the billion-dollar cash cow of League of Legends. They can do whatever they want. But it's not, their esports division is not profitable.
Yeah, so you just so what other examples of like esports not necessarily being that profitable do you find most compelling? Because
name one example that is profitable.
I mean, I'm not honestly too familiar with stuff like this. Like, I'll be honest, like most of my esports knowledge not only comes from like the Hearthstone scene, but like the scenes that surround the Hearthstone scene. So like, almost every single Hearthstone player is a freaking League of Legends fan, and I don't understand it, but
Yeah.
it's just the way of life apparently. But like the only reason why I really learned about Hearthstone or about League of Legends esports is because honestly it was because I was at Peltire's when I was staying at his place in during DreamHack Montreal. And he really
What a
turned me
great
on.
guy Palatire is. Can we say that right now?
Yes,
He's a great person.
100%.
Big fan.
Like the dude was he went far and beyond to not only be a fantastic host, but he was just like the most chill person that I've ever hung out with. And if I ever go back to Canada, I'm hitting him up again, being like, "Yo, I don't need to stay at your place. I'll get a hotel room, but I want to at least come by and like maybe like drink a beer or something."
And can we also say, while we're here, we're changing tracks. The food in Montreal is unbelievable.
Yes,
Unbelievable.
100%.
It's so good.
I was talking about it in the last episode with Luker, how poutine literally changed my life. And every single time I go back to Montreal, I'm going back to the same place that I always go to, Poutineville. So, just pog.
Go to Frite Allures as well. Strongly recommended. There was one time I got their regular, like they do poutine as a dinner entree. It's like a salad bowl full of poutine.
Yep.
I got it one time and I could finish like a third of it, maybe. Yeah, it's
so much food.
I'm gonna restrain my ADD to cap off my previous conversation. I am personally, all the examples I can think of as esports as marketing is companies bragging they're not profitable or cutting them down over time and focusing on content creation. Like Grandmasters is consistent content, Magic Pro League and Magic is consistent content. I don't know a ton about League of Legends, I don't know a ton about Call of Duty, but all these companies kind of make it clear that they're generally losing money on the esports side. And you expect to spend money on marketing. Marketing is a cost. It's not something that you recoup it in sales, but you measure it as how much are you spending on this thing that doesn't have immediate ROI. But from what I've seen, the future is about influencers and is about people playing your game in a way that people can access, as opposed to esports, which is innately opaque unless you already know the product. Right? Think about how important the first down line is in football. And if you try and watch what's going on without that first down line, you don't know what's going on. They add it so that people could say, all right, they have to get over that line, and then they win. But you can watch a sport that you've never seen before, and you don't know what's going on. It doesn't make you want to go play that sport. It makes you confused. So the future of content, the present of content, is about watching people. And Crip has gotten more views opening packs than the Masters Tour has gotten during the World Championships. It's all about people. It's all about that kind of engagement.
It really is all about people, because like literally one person can make your game. Like I think Among Us is kind of like an anomaly of like what can happen with like a game taking off. But like there was one person, I don't know who, but they play a lot of Among Us with their friends, and then suddenly a bunch of other big people started playing with their friends, and then a bunch of other big people started playing with their friends, and it's just like a domino effect that can happen. It's like that's just the internet in general. All it takes is the right person to retweet, to send, to literally somehow get their message onto somebody's device that's right in front of them at all times of the day, because we're glued to these freaking things. Like the amount of time that people spend on social media, they probably don't want to know the answer to that. But like all it takes is one person saying the right thing about one product for it to explode, or for one thing to go viral before everyone start playing it. Like freaking perfect example. Fall Guys, that exploded out of nowhere, and then Among Us happened, and then suddenly it just died off.
Yep. And so to summarize, esports not profitable. People are the face of content. Montreal is great food. Pelletire is cool. That is the summary of that section.
There you
also,
go.
brief breather. I just saw a tweet from my buddy Memnar talking about Wild. You saw the reverts today, right? The nerf reverts.
The one like Quest Rogue. That's really the one that matters to people.
But there's another one that matters. You know NekeyJakey Apothecary.
Yes.
You are familiar with the card NekeyJakey Apothecary.
Yes.
Do you know what's happened since that card was printed? Is they printed this other card called Foxy Fraud, and that means that there's going to be a turn to NekeyJakey Apothecary in your very near future.
Okay, so
because you go Foxy Step Foxy.
Charge is different, so you have Dragon Package now that you go towards. So you just make big Dragon board as soon as possible, right?
I don't know. I don't want to think about it. I have a weak stomach. So it's you deal with it. But if I didn't want to play Wild now, I more don't want to later, though I will 100% be playing Quest Rogue. Like,
Yes.
you can't stop me. I am going straight for the 9x multiplier.
Oh, did
I hit.
did Alec ever respond to my my tweet about Sonya? Because I'm actually wondering about that, if
He
Sonya's going
didn't,
to be
but I would
changed.
expect it not to get changed. They changed it because they changed how that effect works. They made a newer, less hacky version of the effect for Takan, and they backported it for Sonya. So I'd be very surprised if they changed original functionality. They could, but I think that would count as a reversion that he would have listed. I don't know for sure, but I would say like pretty sure.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that they're 1/1s. Sony is really good for clearing the quest anyways, but we won't need help with that anymore because Bloodsail Flybooter exists.
Yeah.
And you just go Flybooter, Shadow Step Flybooter, or also Penflinger, your favorite card, also very good at completing the quest. But it will still be too slow because prep is still nerfed, and that was the important card anyway.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, moving on from the Hearthstone topics. I started this as an idea of just like talking about literally anything but Hearthstone, but like I always want to talk about whatever the guest wants to. So like it's just funny. I think it's been like an hour about it. But let's go on.
I mean, we talked about work and we talked about guitars and bosses and
it's true.
poutine. We can talk about poutine as long as you want. I will start a poutine podcast with you. We can cover
Oh
a
my
different kind of
God.
poutine every week.
Every single time, man. I would totally join that kind of podcast. So the next thing on my agenda is drunken fun stories. Do you have anything in particular, or like any night that you can barely recall to where you had a very fun time with lots of details?
There is a go-to story that I tell every time. I've told the story.
Crack open a beer while you
couple
do
times.
this.
Yes,
Beer number
please
2.
do. Yes. So in my younger days, I was less restrained with my drinking, of course, and I don't know if I don't think it was ever a problem, but there were definitely points where like I was seeing how much fun I could have, and I definitely I limit tested
Yep.
a good bit.
Experimentation,
And
as
so-
the kids call it.
Yeah. So there's one time, I was hanging out with my friend, with a few friends of mine, and we were drinking in Manhattan, and my friend Shelly, she's like, "Let's go to my bar." And I'm like, "You have a bar?" She's like, "Yeah." One of those places where like the bartender gives her a hug when she walks in.
Okay.
I was like, "Oh no, this is gonna be bad." So we're there with a bunch of other people that work for the same company as me, and there are like 4 or 5 of us. And I'm gonna go ahead and say it: 2 of us are way too white for this bar. Like just way too white for this bar.
Wait, what kind
It
of
was-
bar
it was-
is this? Like, what do you mean too white?
It was
for this
it was a nice
bar?
bar. It was a bar called Fat Boot. It was cool, but like it was mostly people of color, almost entirely people of color, and my friend Shelly is Hispanic, and the bartender is Hispanic, and like I married a
Okay.
Hispanic woman, so like I know what that's about, and like the bar hit different, and so
You guys just immediately
walk
felt like
in.
fish out of water.
but it's like, and I don't dance. I don't think that that's a surprise to anybody. I don't dance. I place a lot of dancing, whatever. But she walks in, Evie, the bartender, gives her a hug, and then like, and we all sit down, and me and my friend Tyler just look at each other like we're too white for this, but we chill. Even though like we are the least cool people in the bar by an order of magnitude the second we walk in, and then Shelly just walks over with a bunch of blue drinks, and they have a new rule because of this, by the way. If a drink is not a naturally occurring human hair color, do not put it in your mouth. It's you're okay with somewhere between like clear is kind of okay, brown is cool. If it's blue or bright green or purple, do not drink it. And I asked what this drink is, and she says it's a Skittle Bomb. And I was like, all right, those words don't go together, but sure.
Skittle bomb. What is that, like a
I-
Jaeger bomb but with Skittles? Like
No, it was blue. It tasted like blue. I drank it, and then I don't remember a lot else what happened.
Skittles
But
don't have
I
blue
got
Skittles
home.
though.
Don't think too hard about it. I certainly didn't. So I was not violently ill right away, but like I wasn't having a great time. And apparently I was ill in the Uber, and there was a plastic bag available for this exact purpose.
Yeah.
My friend Ashley told me about it after. I was unaware at the time, but I'm glad I didn't mess up somebody's Uber. And so like the autopilot kicked in. I took the train home because that's just how it is. And the next thing I remember is my wife. Like I wake up, I have a killer headache. The sun is coming up. My wife is looking at me. She's very concerned. She has a very concerned face on.
Oh no.
I was like, what happened? Apparently, when she went to the bathroom at 2:30 in the morning, she tripped over me because I was sleeping on the carpet. And then apparently, after she helped me get situated and get into bed, I told her that because she had never seen me and Batman in the same room in the same time, that I must be Batman. She wasn't a huge fan of that logic, though I stand by it. I stand by it. And I tried to tell her I was out being Batman. She wasn't having it. So since then, I have a standing rule. My wife asks if I'm going to drink any blue drinks or have any shots when I go out. Obviously, it hasn't happened the past year. And I've learned also, once you hit 30, don't do shots. Even like late 20s, don't do shots. I'm too old for shots now.
God.
They hurt.
Dude,
They're painful.
you don't have to tell me about that. Like, I had all of my bad run-ins with alcohol when I was like, okay, before 21 and while I was 21. And the main reason why when I was 21 is because I was in a band. I was finally allowed to be allowed legally into bars, and honestly, I was just one of those people where it's like, oh, everyone in the band is getting drunk. I'm getting plastered. Like, that was my mentality, is that I would always try to one up people, which is why your buddy don't do so well with substances.
Yeah.
Like, especially alcohol. Like, alcohol is like,
Yeah.
I can enjoy a beer or two and feel fine, but if I take like 2 shots, I'm gonna be dumb.
And when you're drunk, you feel like more alcohol is a good idea. Like, if you get too high, first it hits right away, and second you're like, I'm too high, I should stop. If you start getting drunk, you're like, this party, and
But
just
you
keep
go
going.
to sleep if you're too high too. Like,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, is that if you smoke too much off of the doobie, you at least can take a nap, versus where if you drink too much alcohol, first off, you have to stay awake because sleeping's not advisable, and you're probably not going to be having a good time being awake because you're throwing up your insides. Like, this isn't necessarily a story, but the worst run-in I've had with alcohol was oh god, it was either my brother's 21st or 22nd birthday, and the reason why it was I was drinking is because his birthday is August 19th, 1997, and mine is August 20th, 1996. So we're almost a year apart. So his birthday is it's his birthday, that's my birthday, and I was pre-gaming, wanting to be drunk for my birthday. I'm pretty confident I drank like a 1/6 or a 1/5 of a handle of bourbon. And I've never had a more painful hangover in my life. I was literally doing nothing but drinking and throwing up into a trash can for literally a straight 3 hours before I could finally safely go to bed. The most uncomfortable experience I've ever had drinking. And it's part of the reason why I don't drink liquor anymore. Like, I literally walked, because my car is in the shop right now, I literally walked to the grocery store to buy this beer so that way I could feel a little bit good during this podcast, and so I didn't have to drink the whiskey that my brother left here, because it's not my whiskey. But I almost...
Don't drink borrowed whiskey. Borrowed whiskey is a bad idea. Don't do that. Yeah.
I mean, it's still good whiskey. It's still good whiskey.
I'm sure it is. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I'm now like somewhere between 2 and 3 drinks in on like a good night. I'll be like, all right, I'm good. And after there's never a point when continuing after the 3rd drink is a good idea. It doesn't matter what time period it is, just stop. And usually for me, it's somewhere between 1 and 2. I did a little detox over the winter when I explored the world of Lexapro a little bit, because the world wasn't shining quite as bright. And antidepressants and alcohol don't really go all that well together. So I'm like, all right, I've been doing kind of like the beer a day thing for a while. So let's see how long I can go without doing that. Let's see how chill I can be. And it was an adjustment, but it was nice to know that I could do it. It was nice to adjust to it. And now I'm not like beer every day, but I enjoy hitting the off button on the end of the day. And like one beer, I'll feel it and I'll notice it, but I don't feel like I'm heavily impaired.
Exactly.
Nice.
That's why I love like just drinking one beer, because you feel it, but it's not. It's almost like being high, to where like if you drink a beer, you're still coherent and you can still give people, your actual thoughts. It's a little bit slowed down, and maybe you'll stumble over some words every now and again, but you're still generally there. Like, I'm not saying you should drive a car, but if it really came down to it, and someone pointed a gun in your face and it's like, drive this car, it's like, all right, I've had one beer, I'm sorry, I can't do it. No, like, you can drive the car.
It's luckily in New York City I don't have to make that choice, but I appreciate the clear delineation of how I feel before the beer and how I feel after, and afterwards I'm like, all right, my day is over. I'm not gonna look at the to-do list. I'm just gonna chill. It's all fine. And it's nice having that off switch.
You could literally sit down, like watch your programs like your dad and granddaddy before you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, no, I play Slay the Spire or Hades or Loop Hero or Hearthstone or something, but that's my program these days. We're gonna, when we're old enough to have grandkids or whatever, we're gonna be playing like old 2020 games. And they'll be like, granddad and his old games. That's gonna be what we are.
Oh my god, dude. Like I can't wait till I'm like playing Kingdom Hearts 2 in like my 40s or 50s or something. And then my kid's gonna come by and be like, wow, what is this old game? And I'll be like, old game, man, you have no idea what this was back in 2007.
Yeah. Then try and explain the Kingdom Hearts story to them and see how long they last.
Oh, no, I can't. I can't even explain it. Like, okay, so I love the Kingdom Hearts franchise, but I didn't stick all the way with it. Like, I played Kingdom Hearts 1. I played I played Rechain. I also played the game that they had. It was Rechain on the Game Boy, but then they remade it on the PS2, which was how it was supposed to be played. I hate that game, by the way. Then they came out with Kingdom Hearts 2, played that. Then they had Days, which came out for DS. And that's actually one of my favorite games also because of just like the story and because I love playing as the organization members. Plus, the combat in that game is kind of interesting. I also like that. But then as soon as Birth by Sleep and all the other games played out, like I played Birth by Sleep later on, so I kind of regret not playing it when I was a kid. But all these other Kingdom Hearts games are just like, they're like anime filler arc, dude. Like I almost don't want to do it because like it's almost taking away from the game that I like the most. And like I didn't play Kingdom Hearts 3, but I saw my friend plat the game, so I know what the game is about. And I don't think I would enjoy it. But Kingdom Hearts 2 is just such a perfect game in terms of the combat, not the story. The story's hit or miss, depending if you like that kind of stuff. But just like, I absolutely think that Kingdom Hearts 2 is like one of the most perfect games of all time because the gameplay is so good. I played that game multiple different times, and I've even gone so far to play that game on the hardest difficulty with the no experience ability, so it's literally a level 1 run. And the only thing that I can compare it to, it is quite literally Disney Dark Souls. If you get hit once or twice, you're dead. You're donezo. Redo the boss. Sorry, kid. You're out of this business.
So just to clarify, when you said Birth by Sleep, you mean Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep: A Fragmentary Passage? Is that game?
But
Just want to say that.
What?
That's the full title.
Is that actually the full title?
Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep: A Fragmentary Passage. That's the title of the game.
Good God, it's like when you start Kingdom Hearts 3 and it's like, psych, Kingdom Hearts 2.9.
Yeah, but it's Disney Dark Souls, like I get the appeal. I've kind of grown out of most JRPGs, and there were a few that I enjoyed when I was younger, but it was never a genre that like I really clicked with. I enjoyed a bunch of the Final Fantasy games.
Yeah, like I've grown out of those games as well. Actually, that's a great example because like I loved them back in the day, but if I were to pick up Final Fantasy X, I don't have the patience for that.
Like, and I enjoy the Sphere Grid, and that was a really well done game, and I like Final Fantasy VI. And the best Final Fantasy is Tactics. Don't at me. But JRPGs just don't click with me the same way anymore. I mean, at this point, I'm just kind of addicted to roguelikes. So like, I don't know. My attention span is shorter, I guess.
Yeah, you've already like listed a whole bunch of games that you like to play, but like my next question is just like, what's your favorite kind of like video games to play that isn't Hearthstone that like you just want to turn your brain off to? Because this is something that I've been struggling with as especially like making content and like always being glued to my computer. I can't feel like I play a video game for fun anymore. Because like more so recently, I've been playing Hearthstone Ladder for fun. Like I've been playing Highlander Mage a lot and not really playing like the meta decks. But I really can't feel like I pick up another game because I don't know it as well as Hearthstone. That's just something that I struggle with personally, is that I don't like doing things that I'm unfamiliar with. So, like, what are some games that you like to play personally to just help turn off your brain to where, like, doesn't matter if I screw up, I'm just playing for fun? So,
I have many answers to this, but the relationship with a game is so important. This is something I could talk about for a long, long time. I found that I think streaming is a miserable thing. Like, being a streamer is cool, talking to people is cool. Streaming is miserable because you are before you were streaming, you played a game when you wanted to play a game. You had an impulse, then you played it for however long you wanted to play it, then you stopped when you were done. Scheduling the impulse Monday through Friday for these 4 hours a day is not how human instincts work.
No.
Right? You don't just play games when you don't put that on the calendar. That's work. That's a job. That sucks.
And then suddenly you don't want to
So
play this game, and then people are like, "Oh my god, you don't want to stream this video game to people?" It's like it's literally video game for work, but it's still freaking work, my guy.
yeah, I think streaming is miserable because it changes your relationship with not just a title, but with the hobby of gaming in general, because it becomes something that's more routinely scheduled. And routinely scheduled is not a good thing for your hobby impulses. So I was grateful to move on from streaming, even though it was really important to me, and everyone that showed up was like, and again, the people aspect, awesome. The best part of it by a large margin, not even close to being close. But scheduling an impulse to play a video game is miserable. So I found it difficult to enjoy games in general while I was doing that. Because playing off stream, I would not do that. Because, like, no, I got time scheduled for Hearthstone tomorrow. I'm not going to play it right now. And if I play it too much, I'm going to burn out. And then other things just kind of take away from the idea that the one game should be the thing I do. It's really hard to beat that. It's really, really hard to beat that. So I enjoy and still I did at the time and still do now. Like duels is my couch mode. I'll play BGs. I have an EU Smurf for like Drunkhat plays EU BGs if he really wants to. But I don't care about my MMR anymore. Like who gives a shit? It doesn't matter. It's one of my favorite lines. The podcast Squelch, their opening line is Hearthstone's a game and games are meant to be fun. And I kind of internalize that a lot. Because if I'm not having fun, what am I doing? And I maintain that Hearthstone as a game is something that can't be maintained as the only game you play all the time forever. I don't think any game can really handle that, but Hearthstone in particular, I think if you're not taking about 4 months a year off, then you're probably not having a healthy relationship with the game. And so like I'm not off it right now, but I'm playing to clear my quests, and I'm playing for THL. I'm gold 9 right now, and it's what, the 9th of the month. I'm 11x player. Like I just haven't been playing a lot because I don't want to, and I don't play when I don't want to play. Sometimes I'll log in to clear quests on Wild or Duels or whatever. Sometimes I'll play Standard and I'm having fun and I'll jam a couple games. But it's not about turning your brain off. It's about recalibrating your relationship with the game. Hades really clicked with me in a really, really major way. And so, like, I'm not competing at that game, but I'm setting high difficulty challenges that are on par with, like, hitting Legend in multiple servers. It's not against anybody else, but it's something that I want to do and I run it back and, like, I have a specific thing that I want to do. And there are other times I'll just open up and play one run and play whatever, like a more random run without as many difficulty modifiers. And I'll just have a good time. But sometimes I play it and like, no, I have a focus and goal in mind, but I'm not streaming it. Sometimes I'll record it and upload an unlisted VOD on YouTube and post it in my Hades podcast Discord. And that's sharing my gameplay with people so they can see what it's like when I play. But it's not streaming, it's not live. And playing a game live is so different. People don't understand that if they haven't done it before. We'll get back to that. That's another topic that I'm sure will also come up. But also, Slay the Spire's on my phone. Play so much Slay the Spire now because it's on my phone, and I played a lot before, and then I took some time off, and then it's in my pocket now. And the week it came out, that was a problem. It was a major issue. Now it's like a minor issue. I'm not playing at work anymore because I can't sit down and do it anymore. Not that I was before, employer who I haven't named. But and also sometimes just great single player games will come out, and it's just nice to like when Ghost of Tsushima came out, I just kind of no-lifed it for a couple weeks. I just played a bunch of Ghost of Tsushima.
Wait, that's the Dark Souls samurai game, right? Or is that Sekiro?
It's is the FromSoft equivalent. That game's hard.
Yeah.
Like hard. Ghost of Tsushima is by Sucker Punch, who made the Infamous series, and it's more like an Assassin's Creed open world adventure game with a bunch of side quests. Really nice quality of life stuff, very enjoyable to play, compelling story. I enjoyed it. I liked it. So I would come home and sit on the couch and I would play and I would experience it, and then it's done and I'm not going to play it again. Same with like Control was a great game, but you know, it's one and done. There are a lot of really good video games out there, and I'll play the one that catches my interest. The ones that I've come back to are Slay the Spire and Hades are the ones that have really captured me. I wouldn't call them brain off, but I'd call them things that drive me to play them for no reason other than I enjoy them, to the point where I will make my own goals in the game to have something to work towards to justify playing them more. But it's not like I need to do this or the game has no value. It's I want to play this more and my brain is wired to find targets and hit them. So let's make a target.
To motivate yourself. Like it's like It's like anything. Like, if you give yourself a goal, it's going to motivate you to do something more like, I mean, to actually hit that goal versus like, oh, I'm just going to do what the game lets me do.
We're competitive people. You and I are competitive people. We want to win at
Yes.
things. So like, it gives it more teeth. It makes it feel a little bit more like, I'm gonna say meaningful. I think meaningful is the right word. It makes the experience something that I feel like I can justify going back to, as opposed to there have been games where I beat them and it's like I don't really have anything else to do, and then it just feels like, all right, I'm done now. I don't feel like I'm done with these games because I've given myself goals, and even though they're lofty goals or whatever, I still enjoy the gameplay and want to run it back more. I also don't really feel like I have anything left to prove in Hearthstone. I could push for a legend grind if I wanted to, but legend grinding blows ass. I don't want to do it. And
It's not rewarding,
it's
man. It just isn't.
it's terrible. It's just bad. It's just not a fun thing to do. And I don't need to prove anything to anyone because I know there are better players than me. I can point to them. They on average, if someone on average finishes top 10 legend, I'm like, yes, they are a significantly better player than me. That's cool. But I've hit legend for more than half of the game's life. I don't feel a need to prove anything to anyone about my ability as a player. And I'm happy with the content that they make around the game, and I want to improve that. But I play Hearthstone because I like Hearthstone, and the times when I don't like Hearthstone as much, I play less. And then that means when it's time to play more, when I have the urge to play more, then I enjoy it more because I didn't force myself to do it before, like reading the fucking paper. Whenever Hearthstone becomes reading the paper of video games, it's time to step back.
That's fair, and that's part of the reason why Peltire actually stepped away from the game, just to full circle with him again. Just because, like, when I visited him in 2019, that was about when he was done with the game. It was mostly because of not only with the competitive changes, but he just had a general shift in direction of what he was doing in his life, to where Hearthstone just wasn't able to be part of that mix anymore. And now the dude's a father, so he definitely doesn't have time for Hearthstone. But like he was playing like just TFT and just playing like just like games that just let him have fun. Like, he was no longer doing like a whole bunch of competitive stuff, but he was still having fun with the games that he wanted to boot up.
If the game isn't right for you anymore and you want to move on, that is not only fine, it's a good thing that you recognize that.
Yes.
If the game is still right for you, then sure. If you don't like some of the decisions they're making, but you still want to play, that's fine. If the game isn't right for you anymore, but you stay and try and force it, that's where problems happen, where you try and make it right, and when it's not, you blame anyone you can find, hypothetically speaking. That's where the problems come in. And the happiest people I've seen with the games are the ones that recognize their relationship with it and recognize I can keep playing at this level, or I can take a break, or whatever. And the least happy people are the ones that feel like they want to stop playing but can't for some reason. And that's usually also related to if your job is a full-time streamer, and if you play any game other than Hearthstone and your numbers drop by 90%, well, what you gonna do?
Yeah.
What you gonna do? Another reason why streaming is kind of miserable.
Yeah, because it definitely just forces you to do what people will watch you for. And, like, that's both a blessing and a curse, I would say, at least for me particularly, because every single time that I try to grind competitive Hearthstone, or, like, I try to, like, oh, I'm gonna hit Legend today, like, that's like, the title of the stream or whatever, there will be viewers, there will be people there, but, like, if I'm playing a fun deck, there are a lot more people that are interacting with my streams. And something that I've been realizing, especially with my more recent broadcasts, is that I may not have the largest view count in the world, but the amount of people that are chatting with me is insane. Like, if I have, like, 40 viewers or something like that, there may be 10 different people that have chatted in, like, the past, like, half hour or something like that. And there's a lot of channels that just don't have that. There are, like, you know, if you're playing, like, High Legend, you just have people that are watching your gameplay. Versus someone like me, I'm trying to do some stupid specific combo because it's funny, or it's like, oh, hey, I was offered Puzzle Box. Okay, I'm picking Puzzle Box because that's what chat wants. Like, it's
the number one thing, if you're becoming a content creator, the only piece of advice that matters is that you should be able to elevator pitch me in 1 to 2 sentences. Why should I watch you? Why should I watch you? For you, I have an answer. I can say for the crazy combo shit, right? But if someone's like, high legend gameplay, there are a million billion of you out there. I will just watch the person with the lowest number in the bottom left of their screen, and you as an individual are irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if your stream is scuffed, if you don't have a good mic, if you got no cam, if you're not interacting with chat all that well, like if you don't have the production value, and you're just here for the gameplay, I will watch whoever is a higher rank, and that means you are only as good as your rank as far as a content creator.
Yep, and that's part of the reason I got out of that.
Yeah.
Because
it's not rewarding.
It's not rewarding, it's not fun, and you're literally just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And how do you not expect somebody to burn out from that? Like, I'm burning out now trying to come up with new combos that haven't been done before. Or just like literally my last stream was, screw it, I'm going to do variety decks and I'm just going to switch every single loss because I don't know what to play right now. And that's very, very common at the end of an expansion cycle. So it's just like, being a content creator, you really have to challenge yourself to not only stay relevant so people will click you, but to stay relevant for your own sanity. Because, like, I would not be staying up at the hours that I stay up to edit my content and to try and make daily YouTube videos if I didn't honestly care about the game or if I wasn't having fun with it. If I was just, like, it's part of the reason when I was making deck guides, like, it took me a minute to actually put them together because it felt like a chore. It felt like a job. Even though the deck guide on Demon Hunter is the best video I've ever had. Like, what will sell is not always what you want to do. And if you are a streamer, if you want to get into this business, you have to understand that. Because you have to stay up late to do what you don't want to do to get it done because it's that important. If something literally just came out and you need to be the first person to post your video, that you need to do that immediately. You don't get any downtime. And you also have to be able to literally play a game that you don't want to play if you're that good at it. So it's like, do you really want to be a content creator, or do you just want people to watch you play video games?
Yeah, it's a grind, and I'll go one step further and say, if you are going into content creation with the idea that your skill at the game is the primary factor to sell your content, if you are not rank 1 legend regularly, probably pick a different angle.
If you're not Gabby.
Because if you're not Gabby or someone, if Meaty streamed, he would do very well, right? It's if you're Gabby,
Yeah.
if you're one of those players that regularly hits rank 1 legend, then sure. But otherwise, your skill is almost irrelevant. And the big names, the grandmaster level players that stream, they're very, very good, but they stream regularly and they have built brands out of their names. Orange and Fino aren't grandmasters anymore, but they have huge streams and they are good players and they play goofy shit or whatever and do well with it because they're really good, but also because they built brands out of their personalities. You see their faces, they put videos out. When they're in Trollden, you recognize them. You're like, oh, that's Fino. Oh, that's Tice. Tice is huge. Tice is an institution because you know how Tice is going to react. He's a person.
Yeah, I'm trying to reach that level at one point.
But like being Tice, to be that good and also be that compelling of a content creator is rare and difficult. And it was about the skill at a certain point, but that man has never played a real deck on stream once ever. He does not play real decks. He plays meme garbage and is still somehow top 200 with it all the time because he's Tice, right? He can do whatever. And so you get to see one of the best players in the world play total garbage and do well with it. Like, that's a hook. That's something that's going on. But if you're a current high legend grinder and you think that me just being a high legend grinder is enough to make good content, it is not. If you want to see what a good high legend grinder is that's making good content, McBanterface and Eggo Waffle.
Yes.
Both great examples of they narrate their play in a compelling way. They are nice people. They are good at Hearthstone. They engage with the chat in a positive way. They're funny, and they play goofy shit. Like, one of my favorite streams ever was Eggo and Eddie on a voice call Learning
Yes,
Trollmage.
yeah, I was literally there. Yes,
amazing stream. And like
hearing
Trollmage
Eddie,
is a horrible monstrosity.
Oh my god, hearing Eddie's voice where he was just like slowly figuring out that this deck was the low-key nuts. Like, I literally heard the aha moment from him, and I was like, yes, this is beautiful.
One of the best streams I can remember about one of the worst decks I can remember for Hearthstone's health.
It didn't need to be nerfed. It didn't need to be nerfed.
Oh yeah, you're wrong. But the 45-minute games with the two of them just puzzling over every turn and getting a headache watching them, that was amazing content, and you could hear it and see the process. You got to see how the donuts were made, and I loved it so much. And so that's what good high legend content looks like. It's content first and high legend second.
Yes.
It's content first. That is the most important thing. But then you have to be someone that's really good at the game and charming like Ego, and you have to casually know a grandmaster who will just call you and learn this new deck with you. That also doesn't happen overnight. There's a reason those two guys got partner really, really fast. Most of the Hype Horizon people have, honestly. D-Money got partner too, and somebody else I'm forgetting.
Oh, Matt Bastille.
Yeah. Matt Basile got it. Or no, Bat Massel.
Yeah, there we go. That's his real name. That's his real name that I said.
I assume it's the M and the B are swapped.
Yes.
And Raren got partner too. Yeah, so like, but you have to make content, and then being good is part of that, but it's not the only thing. You can make crazy combos and then get to the point in the game where you can execute them because you're good enough to know how to survive a game of Hearthstone. If you were just a combo guy and you wouldn't know how to get to that point, then it's just, restarting until you can get everything together. But being able to navigate that based on your existing Hearthstone skill, it works in your favor.
It's also just the only thing that really keeps me going, because, like, I think I already said this earlier, but, like, how I got into Hearthstone was literally styling on my friends in the lunchroom. So...
You did not say this earlier. Wait,
oh,
no,
I did? Oh, okay. Okay, so, all right, so the way that I got into Hearthstone, I'm probably going to end up saying this, like, literally every single podcast. But I started off by not getting into the game because my brother played it before I did. The only reason why I played Hearthstone is because my high school thought it was a good idea to give everybody iPads. So clearly, the only thing that kids thought, your face is very, very accurate.
Why? Why?
Because it was right when they were very, very popular. They thought it would help us get more schoolwork done, and they were trying to do everything online. They
thought that giving kids iPads would help get schoolwork done. I got graphing calculators confiscated because I played a shitty Mario game one time.
Yeah.
And they gave you an iPad.
They literally gave us iPads and expected us not to play games in class. And guess what I did during class?
The future is so stupid.
The future is now.
The future is dumb.
Yeah, it really is.
So you all played Hearthstone. You dunked on your friend because you're good at it.
But yeah, so my brother was playing the game and I didn't want to get into it. So like, I was like really a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, and I didn't even play Yu-Gi-Oh competitively. I just didn't want to learn another card game, like simple as that. I didn't want to learn a whole new set of rules. But then like all of my friends in band would often talk about this game because they knew how much I liked Yu-Gi-Oh, and they're like, "Oh my god, you don't play Hearthstone? You freaking nerd!" They literally downloaded it on my iPad for me, and I was like, "All right, fine, I'll play it." And then when I finally got good at the game, I had one friend in particular that I would always play up against at lunch. And this was the kind of player who would literally dust his entire collection to make a clickbait deck and then get mad that clickbait deck isn't, like, the best deck in the world. So it was his stupid dusting habits that made me think, I'm going to hold on to my cards and maybe, like, try to do something funny with them because I don't want to just, like, get rid of them and stuff like that. And we would always try to one-up each other with like these stupid combos, and I don't remember specifically what I did back then, but I would always style on him, and he would always get so upset and would like move around and just like bash things, like obviously in a joking mood. He wasn't actually honestly mad, but it just led to a lot of really funny moments and made me actually look forward to like my lunch periods and stuff like that. And something that a lot of people may not know about me, I went to a Catholic high school, so I had to deal with people like that all the time.
Yeah. I don't know much about the world of religious high schools. I grew up Jewish, went to Hebrew school on Saturdays, except when I said I'm not doing this anymore, and my parents were like, okay. And from what I've heard, Catholic schools, like, there's actually some upside to them, but also there's some serious downside, and
institutional upside, social downside.
Yes.
That's pretty much right. The Cliff Notes version. The staff and the actual, like, the curriculum was very, very beneficial to me. If like, I probably would not have graduated high school if it was not for the chemistry teacher that I had during my junior year. But good lord, it is a hierarchy, dude. They literally day one, you are in a group, and that's just because it's high school. But because it's specifically Catholic high school, there's also the religious aspect to it, to where if you're not religious, you're automatically in a different category. Just without second thought. Like, I loved my time in my high school, but I often look back at it and it's like, dude, this was like borderline abuse from these kids. Like, god damn. Like,
high school I'm glad high school's over. It's been a hot minute. I graduated 17 years ago and I don't miss it one bit.
all I miss is the friends that I hung out with. Like, I actually, like, the only thing I miss about high school is marching band, because I did it all 4 years. The best part about it. Another thing that some people may not know about me. I did marching band all 4 years. Did pit for 2 years. Then I did actual field battery for 2. And
you're a drummer. You did drummer things.
yes.
Like, this is less of a surprise than you might think it is.
Well,
like,
a lot of people automatically assume that I just played drum kit and that's it. But no, I actually got my start doing, like, hand drums and marching band. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is really cool. Let's try drum kit. And then I fell in love with it that same year. And then that Christmas, I got a drum kit. So,
do you still watch DCI?
I don't really watch DCI all too much. But back when I was really heavily into it, yes. I would watch a lot of Ohio State and, oh god, what's the other
Michigan.
Is it Michigan or Alabama? No, Alabama's good at football. No, it's Michigan. It's Michigan. Cuz they did Thriller, I think. I think they did like a Thriller marching, like a Thriller show to where they literally had like a guy doing like the moonwalk, and like there were people that were the feet going like through each other, and it's like, gee, like, how do you practice that? I've seen charts, but good lord.
It's the level of precision it has. I was never a musician, but I had a friend that was into drumline, and he would show me these videos, and I'd be like, I don't know what's going on, but I also don't know how they do that.
It's so cool, man. It's so interesting. Like, what exactly didn't you understand about it? Like, is it just organizing all those people?
The concept of how musicians think and process in that level of synchronity is not something that's not how my brain works.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never really understood that level of coordination, nor how to just make drums by themselves sound good.
Yeah, okay.
It's just the one instrument.
Yeah, dude, that's actually something that I absolutely loved about learning battery and about just like learning drum corps and stuff like that. Is just that the stuff that you see people do, like, okay, so when I was in college, I went to Ball State University, and I'll tell you right now, Ball State University's marching band versus IU's marching band is like comparing, oh god, I'm trying to like think of it's like comparing a grape to a freaking watermelon. I'm just gonna use size here instead of like quality, but like, there's like a thing that goes on every single year to where like the drum line does like a little drum off or whatever. It's just to, you know, have fun and, you know, kind of like rip into each other, be like, haha, you suck at that, you know, like that kind of stuff. But we did our thing. We did a whole bunch of just like, we were all playing the same notes, so it's really easy to learn that kind of stuff. And then when IU's drumline played, they did something called, like, they did a split line to where, okay, so you know how 16th notes work, right? Just like, imagine someone going down the line where it's, someone hits 2 notes and the next person does the 2 notes and then so on and etc. And it goes down so fast to where it sounds like one person saying it, but it's quite literally the entire line playing very specific notes. And it's the coolest. They're called drum splits. It's so freaking cool when you do that. And there was no way in hell that we could do something along those lines. Like, it was literally like watching Neil Peart play drums versus having your 5-year-old pick up a drumstick for the very first time. It was so embarrassing, and it was part of the reason why I did not do it the next year. Because what are you supposed to do when you get styled on like that? Go shake their hands?
Like, what you gonna do?
Yeah, like we got freaking destroyed, man.
It's... I always admire watching that level of talent and things that they can't do. Like, I love watching the vibe competitions, the dance competitions. I like the way that people make their bodies move. I love watching the drum lines. Like, watching people be good at things is cool, even if they only have the barest level of understanding as to what's going on.
That's why I love
Um,
music, to be honest. Like seeing
yeah,
somebody be
yeah,
so good at guitar to where it makes it like they make it look easy. That's what I look forward to.
yeah. And I've been getting into a lot of like math rock stuff lately, and you get to see some of these
What?
bands
What?
that
You
are
got
just
to You got to
like,
tell me. You got to tell me bands. I love math rock. I
okay,
love math rock.
okay. Obviously, you listen to Polyphia. We both listen to a lot of
Yes.
Polyphia. I'm sure of that. Sean,
Yes. I
man,
knew it. I knew
yeah.
you would say
Like
that. Let's go.
watching that live performance of Fluffy and just seeing Mario just completely shred the line is just ridiculous. And Japanese math rock is dope. It's
You're talking
so
about
good.
Tricot, aren't you?
No, I'm talking about Light.
Oh, dang it.
Tricot's
Okay.
great. Talking about Light, talking about Jizu, really, really great. I saw Light live right before the pandemic. Crushed it. One of the best shows I've seen. It's Japanese. They know their math rock. They know what's up. But Tricot's great. I'm a fan. Also, Elephant Gym, Korean math rock. Really good stuff.
Ooh. Have you heard of a band called This Town Needs Guns?
Yes, I
Um,
have. You should talk to Lolnenko about music, by the way. He loves that shit.
uh,
But yeah, This Town Needs Guns
Fun
is
fact: he's
amazing.
actually the next person I'm hopefully going to be interviewing.
If you say This Town Needs Guns around him, he will talk for an hour.
Oh my God,
But yeah,
I have a great story for him then. Like,
yes. Talk to him about that. Don't give that to me. Give that to him.
I'll give that to him.
But one of my favorite bands is Battles. Love Battles. One of my favorite
Battles. I'm
bands.
gonna actually look that up right now. You said it's
Yeah,
still math rock.
It is. It's math rock. It's a little weirder. It's not as guitar based, but it's really, really good. And they've been through a bunch of different band compositions. I've seen them live like 5 or 6 times. It's basically if robots gained sentience and decided to make a band for fun, it would sound like Battles. I'll send you some links after the show.
Yeah, dude. I don't
Um,
even see a Google profile on them. They're really low key.
yeah, it's really, 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 really good. But I've been getting into math rock, and you really have to focus on the quality of instrumentation, the quality of the player, and it's not just the execution, but it's the planning, and it's how everything is just kind of drawn out. And
Everything is planned
yeah,
out with that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Because like the biggest thing about I guess just like songs that use odd time signatures in general is that hitting the 1 is the most difficult part of it because it's so easy to get lost in whatever you're doing. And most people will obviously like default to 4/4 because it's the easiest thing, like just boop 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 boop, really easy to get down in your head. But then suddenly when you make that 4 into a 7, or you make that 4 into like a 6, or in some cases when you make it 13, 12, 11, you really need to be paying attention to what you're playing. And that's what really distincts from like amazing musicians from just people who could just hit bass snare all the time.
and there's obviously like there's a spectrum here, and you can have a really talented drummer that doesn't mess with time signatures or syncopation or whatever, but then also you have people that are next level, or you can even have I really love. So one of my favorite musicians is Frank Zappa, and Frank Zappa always played
Yes, very
with
nice.
an incredible collective of drummers. Terry Bozzio is ridiculous, but like Vinny Colaiuta, he would just like sight read these ridiculous long bars and just play it perfectly while eating sushi. There's a story that like he ate sushi with one hand in between reading bars and turning the page of this long thing that he was sight reading. And it's you just get these absurd levels of talent where it's music is in their bones, right? It's just something that they do. It's nothing they there's a lot of practice. But you look at I've seen Vic Wooten live a bunch of times.
Oh,
Victor Wooten.
I have actually
It's
seen him live before.
unbelievable.
I got
And
lucky
so,
enough working at Sam Ash to be around while he was doing a clinic. Best bass player of all time.
incredible. So like I love Vic Wooten. I love Les Claypool too. But it's when you look at Vic Wooten, you see a man that was born with a bass in his hand, and he started learning at 5. So it's not that he didn't work at it. No, he has decades of practice. But at this point, the bass is an extension of his body, and to get better at it, to learn it more, is just something that is natural to him. Just like I don't know, any kind of practice, it's something that you do. If you play Hearthstone more, you get better at Hearthstone. If you talk more, you get better at talking. If you make podcasts, you get better at podcasting. He's been getting better at bass just by playing bass every day forever for so long. It's just an extension of who he is as a person. And to see that kind of enmeshment with his craft is really something special.
And it's just why I love musicians, man. Like have you ever heard of the Mars Volta? by chance? Because it's very
Have I heard of the Mars Volta? D-Louse and the Comatorium is such an incredible
Oh
album.
God.
Their later stuff,
Let's go, dude.
their later
yes.
stuff is a little too wanky. Like they got really wanky when you started
Very
getting
experimental.
into Francis the Mute was okay. Not the experimental. They need to learn how to keep it in their pants. They need to make songs that are under 16 minutes. Because like I enjoyed like D-Louse and the Comatorium is incredible because most of the songs are under 10 minutes. But I like Francis the Mute was okay, but there are some songs that are like 25 minutes. When you get into
Cassandra
Amphitecture,
Gemini
like
is
60
literally
minutes
32. Yeah.
it's just absurd, right? So there's actually a band called Closure in Moscow where their first album, First Temple, is what it would sound like if the Mars Volta could make a song under 6 minutes. Every song is like a Mars Volta song under 6 minutes. They have the shifts and the time signatures and the intensity, and the vocalist sounds almost identical, but the songs are tighter. So D-Louse and the Comatorium I loved. Tremulant I really thought was a great record. But yeah, Mars Volta they're incredible, but they play the instruments more than they make music at a certain point, and so
Yes.
I much liked it when they had music.
See, I am very much like I love weird shit. I love stuff that just somehow manages to work at the end of the day. And the way that I was turned on to this band was actually in my high school marching band days. We had one teacher in particular that helped with only percussion, and then later on there was another person that helped us out who mostly was just trying to help like Pit and like the marimba keyboard players. But this guy was like, oh god, first off, his name was Mr. Sugar, and we called him Sugar Daddy for short because it was just easier to say it. And the dude was actually hilarious to talk to. Like, he would literally roast students and like shit talk them all the time. Because especially in my class with the people that we had in percussion, it was known that getting an A in band was very easy if you just joined percussion and just slapped freaking cymbals together, because the whole point of the marching band was that everyone could be joined, that it was no cut policy. And our band director was the kindest soul you would ever meet in life. So a bunch of people would just be rowdy in that class, and he would keep them in line. But regardless, there was one day where I was just listening to, I don't even remember what I was listening to. It might have been like an Avenged Sevenfold album or something. But I was listening to something very freaking loud, and he comes over, takes off my headphones, listens to it, and he's like, all right, I'm going to tell you one thing right now. Musicians are good by how many rests that they can play. And so he turned me on to the Mars Volta, literally Como House in the Comatorium. I think the very first song that he showed me was the final song off that album. So it's
Take the Veil Serpent Text.
Yes, literally probably one of the best songs ever made of all time. Like, I feel such a strong emotional connection to that song. But he played that to me, and it literally blew my mind as a kid. And every single time I turn on that track, I go back to old young Clark, back during his sophomore days, back before his hair was really long and it was still going through this weird growth spurt. And just, it takes me, not necessarily out of my comfort zone, but I don't know what I'm listening to, and I actually enjoy that for once. And that's not something that I do. Like, I've literally been talking this entire podcast about how I enjoy being in control of whatever I'm doing, whether that is music, gaming, whatever it is. Being able to listen to interesting music and not know what is going on, but still enjoying it, is a weird serenity to me.
It's, even if you're like a professional bus driver, sometimes it's nice to be a passenger and see where the journey goes, you know?
Yeah, holy shit, that is a great freaking analogy, actually. Great metaphor.
Well, I need to get another beer, so I'm going to mute for a second.
Okay.
Think about your next question.
I got it all written down.
Yeah? Well, just think about it. Sit here and think quietly. No, I'll be right back. Ooh, that's delicious. That is a Never Stand Still from the Bronx Brewery.
I was actually about to ask what that is. What kind of beer is it?
This is a, don't know. It's in the variety pack. Oh, it's an Imperial IPA, 8.5%. This interview may get a little bold by the end. We'll see what happens. The last one was a Slightly Mighty IPA from Dogfish, which was only 4%, which is kind of like my session beer. This is a special occasion, so we broke out the big guns.
Nice. I'm actually not a fan of IPAs just because like the aftertaste is what kills it for me. Like it took me forever to finally get myself to like beer. Cause let's be honest, you don't like beer the first time you drink it. Nobody does unless you're freaking weird. But I can really only like drink lagers. That's like what I'm limited to. Like any other beer, I'm just like, that doesn't feel right going down.
Honestly, as I got older, I found my taste changed a little bit. Like I drink a lot of black coffee, like a lot of black coffee, and that's something that 10 years ago I definitely did not like. When I was your age, I didn't like black coffee or IPAs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do like any caffeine. Like I don't have any morning routines like that. And a lot of people are like, "How do you function?" It's like one step at a time.
How much do you sleep at night? Do you sleep like 6 hours or more?
Oh, I sleep 6 hours at least. Like I'm one of those people that really tries to value sleep, but I will immediately give it up if I need to. But I am very cranky if I don't get at least 5 hours of sleep.
Okay, at least 5 hours though. 5 is not enough, and that is the line where like I need caffeine to function. And usually I'm hovering in compound fatigue for a few days. 5 hours, 5 hours, 5 hours, crash for 10, crash for 11.
Yeah.
But those last few days, the caffeine is vital for functionality.
Yeah, and like something else that like I think it's just who I am as a person, but like since I've been in high school, I've had like this mentality of like, oh, there's a job that needs to get done, so I can't go to sleep type deal. So like, especially back when I was in high school, like I would literally have to get up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning in order to be at school by 7 o'clock because that's when you had to be on the field for band practice. So like, I essentially had a 0 period every single day throughout my high school career. So sleep was always like something I automatically gave up. But it also just like I would always like have something I was doing. So like I would literally go to school around like 6:45, 7 o'clock, and then I wouldn't get back home until like 8 p.m. So like my brain is just like it's either always on or it's resting. And if it's on, it doesn't stop until the job is done or until I literally can't blink anymore.
Yeah, I take something for that now. It's called Concerta because that's the inability to control my brain's focus is something that I was diagnosed with. Well, a couple years ago, I was diagnosed with ADD, and then about 75% of the people I spoke to were like, "Well, yeah." I was surprised. They were not surprised.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, I shouldn't have been surprised either.
Do you do you take medication for it? I mean, when did you find out actually? Because like when I was a kid, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and they tried to put me on medication immediately, and actually did.
I found out not last April, but the April before.
Okay, so this is very recent then.
Very recent. I spent a lot of time sixth sensing my life, where like once you know the plot twist, you rewatch. And so like I knew the plot twist now because I'm a 5-time college freshman, and I've never made it to sophomore year. Never got there.
Wait, really?
And really, never got there. Never got past freshman year. It wasn't that I wasn't capable of like intelligently doing the work. It was homework and studying at a self-motivated pace was impossible. Studying was physically painful. I couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
College. I didn't want to do it, right? I didn't want to do it, so I should be clear. But also, part of it was I wasn't able to do the support tasks, the homework and studying. I did not control my time. It was painful to study. I've never been good at that.
I have to agree with that, man, because like as much as I hate to say that I don't enjoy reading, I really don't enjoy reading when I'm forced to do it. And when you like, it's not even like one of those things where it's like, yeah, sit down and read this type deal, but like you have to read your assignments and stuff like that. And like I have to like trick my brain into being like, just read this because it's what you're supposed to do. Don't care about whether or not you're enjoying it. You just get it done. And it's just like I really can. I'm full ass or no ass. Like I either enjoy it and I do it well, or I don't enjoy it and I'm not having fun, and I usually just let other people do the work. There's almost no middle ground for me.
Studying is the idea of rereading something I already know just to read it better is like, no, I read it the first time.
It's tedious. It's tedious.
It feels so pointless. But that's the thing about, so I've thought about this a lot because over the past year, especially, people have really realized when they're able to control their focus and when they're not, about how it's disproportionate in the gaming world. And at first, I was like, is there a risk of overdiagnosis? Is there something where people are misidentifying? But then I realized, no, the reason that we all gravitate towards games, especially ones like Hearthstone, is that environments with constant inherent stimulus and motivation with big flashy colors, of course people with ADD are going to be drawn to that shit. We're
Exactly.
drawn to it like moths to a flame because every click, every card, people talk about with Magic, with Hearthstone, with any deck building game, just the fire, the constant ideas that you have in your head that you can't escape them, you can't wait to get back to them. That's because the thing the game does plays to the way that our non-neurotypical brains work in such a primal way that you're going to see a natural disproportionate representation. And a very good friend of mine, Wicked Good, he is kind of the ADD whisperer among people in our scene, in the Hearthstone world, and he's wrote an article about how card games helped with the ADHD I didn't know I had, because he got diagnosed in his mid 30s because he brought his kid to get diagnosed and they were going through the symptoms and he was like, "Hey, wait a minute." And so he
Like
got
double
diagnosed at the same
take.
time. Yeah, right. Like it's again, it's like the Fight Club moment where you see the twist and you go back. It's like it was me the whole time. And so he's been really, really helpful to me and a lot of other people when working through this. But card games in particular kind of play to this impulse because there's so much depth that it's basically ADD is a kitchen stove you can't decide when you turn it on or off. When it's on, you're just cooking, and when it's off, you can't turn it on. There's no dials in the front.
Yeah.
So card games turn the oven on and leave it on forever and burn the rest of your life down around it because you can't control it. And neurotypical brains in college, they choose when they want to study, and like nobody likes studying. I'm not going to say that anyone finds it easy, but they can do it. I was unable to do it. I was not able to do it. So I tried 5 times, 5 times college freshman, never made it to sophomore year. And I found that I needed something like work, which again has that inherent motivation reward system built in. And like you, especially customer service, your entire job is being than doing what someone tells you. Constant like stimulus reward, and then at the end they give you money. Like, cool, I'm all about it. That is very much my belief system.
And that's why I could do sales. Like that was why I was
Yeah.
able to do sales very, very well because, like I said earlier, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I don't really know what the difference is between ADHD and ADD. I think it's like certain things trigger you more than others, or it's like how your attention is really really divided up. But
Sounds plausible. I have no idea.
it's pretty much like interchangeable from what I can tell. I think people say ADHD is more severe, but regardless, like for me personally, as like a kid, knowing that I had this kind of thing and was like literally medicated for it, like it's almost like a different thought process. The way that I literally describe how my brain thinks is that I have to distract myself to be on topic. Like I literally have to like almost fool my brain into thinking about what I want to like what I want to get done if it's something that I don't enjoy. Like it's almost like you have to trick yourself into having fun. Where it's like, all right, kids, we're not cleaning the house, we're playing the cleaning game, something like that.
Gamification, right? Like, and gamification is a thing, and I'm all about it. But really, what I found helped was acknowledging the problem, being aware of it,
Yes.
and getting medication and learning. I don't know. It's something that I also had to make peace with was my brain is not an effective storage place for things that I want to actually get done. The idea of spending mental energy of holding on to things. But to-do lists are scary because you put everything in it and then you don't look at it and then you get anxious at the end of the day like, there's got to be so much stuff on there that I have to do. I'll just look tomorrow. And it
Yep.
builds up and builds up and builds up. Then you look a month later, you're like, I did 3/4 of these. The last week, the last quarter didn't matter. I should have just looked that day and externalized my brain. But yeah, it's hard to do things you don't want to do. And I'm not going to say that anyone is the best studier in the world. I doubt that if you asked anyone, they'd be like, I love studying. I can do it whenever I want. I'm really good at it. I doubt that. It's not the joy, it's the capability. And that's kind of where I struggled. So I forget why we were talking about 5-time college freshman. I forget why that came up. There had to have been some reason for that.
We were just talking about like ADHD and just like living with it and whatnot, and I
Yeah.
tied it with school. I actually don't remember 100% either. It's funny what beer does to you.
Well, and this is what happens with podcasts. We get it gets off track. I've been part of many of these. Like it
Down
happens.
the
But
rabbit hole.
the long and short of it is, I had to find something that worked for me, and 2.5 years ago I looked back and so 2.5 years ago I looked back and understood why a lot of these puzzle pieces fit into place, and then since then, like, got medication, got some help, learned about it, talked about it, acknowledged it, made peace with it, recognized my own limitations, and I'm glad I did so. But there were definitely a lot of things that would have gone differently if I had been aware. And even then, college didn't work out for me. So instead, I just hit the workforce right away, and that was just a much better fit for me. Just worked out better.
Yeah, and like I'm starting to rediscover those same challenges again going through school, because like I'm taking 5 different classes right now, and I'm definitely telling you, like, next semester I'm getting less classes because I am somehow making the content creation work, but like my streaming is definitely suffering. Like people are wondering why I don't have a schedule. It's because I'm taking 5 classes. It's because I don't know what...
You have a schedule, a school schedule.
Exactly.
You have a schedule.
Exactly.
So just not a streaming schedule. But like in streaming, being consistent is important, but we talked about it, especially with impulses, the way our brains are wired. Playing a game when you don't want to play it is torturous. It's just not fun. It's the opposite of fun. I would rather be doing something else. You keep looking at the clock like, okay, how long has it been until I can end the stream? Like, when have I put in enough time that I can end the stream?
Finally reached that 4-hour mark.
Yeah. 4 hours of doing something you don't want to do for an audience. Like, it's just... I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it. I did it for a while, and I was nice having that, but sometimes I would end at 2 hours, sometimes I would go for 4, and it was nice talking to people, but I'm grateful now that there's a more organic structure for me as opposed to one that I had to create. Now, I'm grateful for what it was, but people ask me sometimes, when are you going back to streaming? Like, I enjoy the one stream on set release day, every expansion, and that's fucking it. That's it. Because that's when I want to play, and I know it, and I can plan on it, and I hoard deck lists and share them with everybody and play a lot. But I have no interest in scheduling my Hearthstone time or any game time. I don't have interest in putting that in the calendar. I want to play when I want to play.
Yeah, speaking of doing what you want to do, the question that I decided to think of while you were grabbing your beer actually is, what exactly are your personal career goals? Like, I don't necessarily want you to like pick between like the movie industry and like everything that you're doing in the gaming world, but like where exactly do you want to see yourself in like 10 years, and what do you describe as like, this is where I say I made it?
Okay, multiple answers here. There are 3 clear paths. 1, I like the company I work for. I don't love the position the industry is in right now. But the most important part of working for the movie theater industry is you get to be a lot of people's first boss, and also you get to teach people how to move into management in a healthy way. There are a lot of people that don't understand what management means. And what management means is listening to people, taking blame, giving credit, dealing with the distractions so they can do their jobs, and giving them guidance so they understand what they're supposed to do. My favorite part of my job is performance management and talent guidance, helping people be better at their jobs. That can be giving them performance reviews. That can be just giving them a coaching conversation in the moment. And I firmly believe the vast majority of your feedback should be positive reinforcement, because if someone does something good, you say, that was good, do that again. They remember that immediately, and they will do it again. It's so easy for managers to focus in on what's not working, because your job is to fix problems as a manager. And so if your entire life is focused on problems and you only talk to people when there are problems, you don't reinforce the things that kept the other problems from happening. So people jump on another thing and they leave the first thing that they were sitting on for a reason. So positive reinforcement, super important. Talent management, super important. Teaching people how to communicate with each other. Teaching people how to problem solve. Teaching people how to get better. And clearly communicating to them what they're good at, what they can work on, how they work on it, and how they get to the next level of their career, or how they can build skills that are good with them if they leave the company and work somewhere else. Because not everyone should be a movie theater manager lifer. That's not a career that everybody should take. They could, but I don't want them to think that these skills are only for that. I want them to learn and grow as people so they can be happier in their lives. In the meantime, be better at their jobs here and help make other people happier. That's the most important thing. So I've been with this company for a long, long time. Many of the people that worked for me have gone on to become general managers themselves. And they have developed their own talent that has become general managers as well. I can look at my coaching tree, and I'm happy to see how many branches are on it because, and I don't need credit for that. I just want to make people better at their jobs and happier while they're doing it.
You
and
want to give
more
them the
aware of what
tools.
matters.
You want to give them the tools.
Yeah, and more aware of what matters because so many people focus on so much shit that doesn't matter. So many people focus on like sticklers for details. Like, I don't give a shit. The most important thing is to empower smart people, tell them that they are a smart person, and then get the fuck out of their way. Let them do their jobs. Let them own it. If they make a mistake, say, hey, this is your mistake. But if they do something good, say like, hey, you did something good. And then they do it for you next time. And then eventually they run the building for you and you go in and you just kick up your feet and let the building run itself. And then you get promoted and move on, do it again. So that's kind of option one. I've explored that already. I will continue to explore that. I would love to go back to the engineer job if that becomes available again because I really love the quality of life there. And I felt like I was helping people, but like in a way that didn't suck. But it's... That is the most likely option because it is the most comfortable, if I'm being honest about it. That is the option that allows me to stay with a career where the vice president of the Northeast called me and said, we know your position is going away. We don't want to lose you. Here's an opportunity. It's kind of hard to say no to that kind of connection.
They value you, clearly. Like, you keep
like,
that
he
gig.
Called me for, yeah. So that's option one. Option two, I take the skills that I've learned in this industry and I bring them to another industry that involves more sitting down and less customer service. And that could be any number of things. I can read a profit and loss report. I can talk to people about what makes sense as far as return on investment. I can look at I could be like an underwriter or whatever, look at a bunch of credit card statements and investigate, see what's going on. There's an option there. There's something there. Not really a goal so much as an idle thought of what would my life look like if I didn't work in a job where sometimes I had to touch poop with my hands. I wear gloves, but like, you name the bodily fluid and I have dealt with it at a movie theater. Sometimes multiples in the same day.
Yeesh.
Like there was one time I insist at whatever theater I go to, the first time there is some kind of bodily fluid mess, I insist on personally cleaning it so that the staff knows that I am down for that and they don't really have a reason to not do it. But there was one theater where I did that.
Lead by example.
Where, yeah, leading by example and setting the tone. There's one time I did that where someone shotgun blasted shit onto like a flusher, right? And so I was cleaning the whole thing. I hadn't turned the water off and I didn't realize it, and I was like leaning over the flusher, and then the auto flusher went off, and I got the whirlwind, and it splashed on my clothes, and I came out of the bathroom. It wasn't brown or anything, but like it was unpleasant, and I was clearly unhappy. And my manager and supervisor that were working at the time, they just looked at me as like, "Go home, stay there. We got it. Get out of here."
There you go.
And so like. I did it, but also I want to be in a position where a flusher can't go off in my face. So I've been thinking about that. Option number 3, card designer for Hearthstone. Probably final design. But like, if Team 5 opens a design position, I'm going to apply. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I applied for it, but I was very underqualified, to say the least. I honestly just did it just to do it, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm qualified, but I think and talk about it a lot, and I have a really good dialogue with quite a few devs. I throw my hat in the ring, hypothetically speaking. See what happens.
Roll credits.
Yes. Yeah, wasn't intended, but we'll roll with it.
Like maybe not even like one of those things to where like you'd be good at like designing the cards itself, but I feel like you personally are good at conversing with other people and working as a team. And that is something that is very, very valuable in a game like Hearthstone, to where like you need somebody to be like, this can't be done because of X, Y, and Z. Versus like, hey guys, does this look good? Oh yeah, that's fine. I can't think of a single way this can be broken. Like, you really need people to look at things not only with a critical eye, but like the more eyes that you have on a problem, especially with like a card game, it feels like it's easier to stop problems before they become a problem.
Perspective is important too, and something that I'm really grateful to Coin Concede for is increasing my perspective of what actually matters in a game. And most of the time, I think actually the most important factor for if a meta is considered good or not is average game length. The longer the games, the worse the meta feels. And it doesn't mean that everything should be turn 4, turn 5, but as soon as your games stop going past 7 or 8 minutes, it's not fun anymore. Think about The meta we got the most emails about was Rise of Shadows because of Boom Control Warrior.
Yeah, I was about to
And
say
yeah,
Control Warrior
right.
versus like Cyclone Mage was like the matchup that would drive people crazy, or just Control Warrior mirrors in
And Raiding
general.
Party Rogue too.
Yeah.
But I remember because I couldn't play Hearthstone in the train anymore because I had 20 minutes till I hit the tunnel and I wouldn't finish a game in time. And so, but there's a lot of perspectives that matter a lot, and the competitive perspective, as far as balance, is one of the least important to the game because it's such a small percentage. Doesn't mean it's not important, but it means that I think I have the perspective that final design is not just balancing the cards. Final design is finishing the set and fleshing out the ideas that initial has and actually like making cards and designing cards and thinking about what could be fun and what would be fun and what fun means to different people, as opposed to just from the Spike perspective. So the magic terms, I'm sure you've heard these terms. Timmy, Johnny, and Spike, right? Timmy is big splashy things. I want to win with big splashy things. Think like Ramp Paladin, Big Druid, whatever. Johnny is I want to win my way. I want to win with crazy combos. Your Mechathune Priest or whatever.
Flashy combo decks.
Flashy combos, kind of like what you do, but like you bring it on the ladder. APM Priest, for example.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Spike is I want to win at any cost. I want to win the way the game wants me to win. And if you, Patrick Sullivan, who's a brilliant game designer, commentator on Magic as well. Kibler told me the story. I know I'm name dropping like crazy. It's like I was Cora. We were playing a ton of BGs at BlizzCon in 2019, and Cora was there, and like we know her from Coin Conceit and all that, and also she's fucking Cora, so like whatever. She decided to hang out with me. I was like, thank you for this. This is awesome. And then like Kibler was there and was like, hey, have you met Kibler? I was like, yeah, I met him at a Magic event in 2002. Were you alive then? I didn't say that, but I was thinking. And so like we caught up a little bit. And then he was talking about his friend Patrick Sullivan about Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. If you design a game thinking that the only correct way to play is Spike, then you are a Spikopath. And that is Artifact. And that is Gwent. And that is Runeterra in a way. Runeterra has more flexibility. Like there's more to it. There's more ways to play. And there's that really rich Riot IP that you can touch on. But when you look at games that were designed by former card game pros so that card game pros always win, they're shitty games because it's not fun for the better player to always win. You need some level of variance. And the biggest mistake that I think a lot of people make when they apply for final design is that they think they're just going into balanced cards. I can do a better job balancing. And it's not just balance. You want things to be on the verge of broken all the time, and you want to make sure everyone has fun with their way to play. Which is why also that I'm glad that they've done what they've done with Priest. There I said it. There I said it. I'm glad they printed a Lucia. Go ahead, come at me. Go ahead.
You know, it's okay to be wrong, but it's one thing to be prideful about your wrong answers.
But because they printed a Lucia and Ticketus, they can make combo decks because
Like-
there's disruption for slower decks that would otherwise get disrupted. I'm not going to say that I love the play pattern for Lucia. It's a blunt instrument to solve a problem that I hope they have with more
Yes.
nuance going forward. But they printed something for Priest players so they don't lose to the OTK DHs of the world, so they can feel like they have control over the game, which is all Priest players want. And Priest is always super popular, even when it's bad, which is most of the time, because a lot of players identify with Priest. And being aware of that is a super important part of designing a game, because you can't just design for the top 1%. You have to design for the entire game.
Yes.
And people like shitty Priest decks. A lot of people.
Like, I will say this. Mindrender Lucia and Ticketus, whether or not you like the cards or not, I do agree that they're good for the game. Maybe Mindrender Lucia more so than Ticketus, just because, like, especially with, like, Yashiraj being a thing, being able to mill, like, literally a third of someone's deck, I think is a little bit excessive. But with
You have to
Mindrender...
work so hard at that. You have to play a 7-drop, then play a Ticketus, then play a 10-drop. Like, pressure them.
Exactly.
If you want them to not do that, then pressure them. And I'll take Ticketus over Jade Idol.
Yes,
If
okay,
the other
that's
option
fair.
was Jade Idol or Archivist Elysiana or Deathstalker Rexar or Galakron Priest, it's not infinite value. It's let's end this game right now. I want this game to be over. Keeps the average game length down, like I said. So they make cards like Ticketus so you can make a slow Warlock deck and not lose to a combo deck every single time.
Yes. And kind of like going back what I was saying with like Minor and Lucia, I agree with the theory of them, but it's just like I card games are really hard to balance because like you don't want like one of those things where like, oh, I don't want to immediately like concede the game because this card was burned. But that's just literally the nature of card games. Like if you have like one card such as like you're playing Il'gynoth Demon Hunter, like that's a perfect example because that's why most people hate Luciana is because, you know, they're playing OTK Demon Hunter, they're playing whatever and their combo gets stolen. But like literally because of that one card being taken away from you, your entire strategy that you built your deck around is literally not available to you anymore. And it's just like it's hard to make that balance between what feels fair and what feels unfair when you have someone that's interacting with your cards, but like at the same time Priest had no way of stopping these decks beforehand, so you really can't get that mad at them because it's the only way that they have to fight back against literally an archetype that counters them as an entire class. Because let's be honest, there's no aggro Priest decks.
But you can get mad. Like that's the thing. Emotional reactions are good in a card game. You don't want repeated visceral negative reactions, but sometimes you want to get scammed, and sometimes you want to be the scammer.
Yes, okay, that's a fair point.
Talked about this in the AMA of if everyone is talking about how the deck they are playing is broken, then they're probably doing something right. If everyone is talking about how one specific deck is broken, they're probably doing something wrong. If everybody feels like they have a leg up on the competition, it's probably balanced, and people get to feel powerful, and getting to feel powerful is so important because playing a deck that doesn't feel powerful sucks. Playing something that's like Highlander Hunter in Ashes, where neither of you hit Zephyrus or Bran, you're just Yeti bumping. It's not like you're playing 3-mana 2/3 dragons that discover another dragon or whatever. Yeah. And you're sticking to Dragon Bane like that's the best thing you can do. You don't want that to be your gameplay pattern.
Yeah, and I guess that's actually a good point. Is that like there are times where you need to get mad at the game because then that's gonna literally create that variance, right? To where you're having fun, to where you have to take the L every now and again. And I feel like a lot of people in the Hearthstone scene really don't want to take that L when they need to, because like case in point, I'm trying to get my girlfriend to play this game, and it's not that she doesn't want to play it. She's like me to the point where like if she's not familiar or if she's not comfortable with like literally how to do the actions of a game, she's not gonna want to play it because it's gonna make her feel stupid, and she doesn't want to like feel that way when she's playing a game. But like I'm literally telling her, it's like, babe, I have like at best maybe like a 55% win rate. That means half the games that I'm playing, I'm losing. That's just the name of the game. Like you literally have to lose in order to win.
But card games are really complicated and hard for people to get into. And even if Hearthstone is a simpler one, it's such a complex game. Yes. And you lose half the time, and it doesn't feel great. And when you lose, you decide what thing is bullshit. But also, no one on Twitter is out there like, hey, I faced this Highlander Priest deck. That was a quality loss. My opponent played well. I appreciate what they did that game. People either take the loss and say nothing, or they take the loss and they get salty. Nobody is out there tweeting, I had a good loss against my opponent who was a worthy challenger. That's not how people talk. That's not coming up. So you're only getting the sample size of the people that are dissatisfied.
Yeah, and that's also the thing about Twitter, because it's a very vocal minority, like complaining about literally in certain topic. I strongly recommend muting
people who bitch a lot, by the way. Just get them out of your timeline. It's not worth it. But we measure guest satisfaction metrics at the theater. And one of the things that we measure is how satisfied were you with the temperature of the auditorium? Who's ever going to come out of a theater and be like, that was the best temperature I've ever had in a theater? No. They're either upset or they don't notice it. There's no positive aspect there. It's only a dissatisfier, right? It's either invisible or broken. And so that's kind of the Twitter mindset. When you're interacting with people, you're very rarely going to get a loss that they're happy about, because competitive people aren't happy about losing. And nobody's really thrilled about losing, period, because that's losing is not a fun thing. And so sometimes you'll get like, look at this crazy deck, I can't believe what happened, it was awesome, whatever. But most of the time you're going to get, this is bullshit. Or you're going to get, I won and it's clearly because I was better, but if I lost it was because of luck. Like that's just how human psychology works. I don't expect anyone to triumph over that. That's not how people operate. But you have to just be careful about the interactions you gauge on Twitter. And if you see a bunch of people talking about the same thing, then yeah, that's something going on. But if a bunch of people are bitching about different things, it probably just means the format is kind of in an okay place. or the format's really not in an okay place and they're all problems. And the reason that differentiating between those things, which I think I can do, is why I want to work for you, Team 5.
Like I said, man, you working in a team environment just seems to be the best thing for you, because you really like, you have a very solid head on your shoulders, and you're like, with like everything that I'm saying, it's like, do you really need that for competitive Hearthstone? Like you seem like you have these opinions to yourself, but like they're not necessarily opinions. You've almost like made them facts, but they're based in like actual and like applications to like what you're doing. I don't know if I'm really making sense here, but
the word you're looking for is insights.
There
and
you
I
go.
appreciate that.
There you go.
Yeah, it's. I like to think that the amount of exposure I have to the different corners of the Hearthstone world through relentlessly tweeting is helpful and valuable to Team 5 if they were to open a position up, and I would apply, and I'd be curious to see where that went. I'm not planning on it as a career goal. And honestly, so the original question was, when do you feel like you've made it? I feel like I've made it. I feel like at this point, I am able to make a livable salary with my wife living in New York City. I make
living
like,
in New York City, let alone is there you go. That
right.
that
and
shows.
it's the outskirts of Queens, but I own, I don't rent, right? And so I have a mortgage, but I feel lucky to be in the position that I'm in. I live comfortably. I'm not wealthy, but I do okay for myself. If I want something, I can go buy it. Right? I can't I can't just gallivant off on vacation, but where no one's vacationing right now. But I can make an extravagant purchase or two each year. I celebrate annually New Monitor Day because I have a problem, and so like I have way too much screen space here. But I'm at the point where I'm proud of what I can do at my current job. I think there are opportunities for something else, but I don't feel a strong need to go looking for them right now. I'm happy with my involvement in my extracurriculars. I can buy things when I want to buy them if I need to buy them, and I'm not really worried about being hand to mouth at any point. It's a surprise $500 bill would not wreck me. And I don't really know what more there is to life. I could be more ambitious, but instead I've reached the point where things are relatively stable, relatively happy, relatively comfortable. And I've decided that instead of worrying about what mark I make in the world, I think that this is good enough for me to say, this is a good spot to be in. It's a good spot. It's not like I'm not Jeff Bezos. Don't need to be. I can't buy yachts. I don't need a yacht. I'm fine. I'll just stay on land. It's not a big deal. And I can make decisions about what I need and want, but I feel okay with where I'm at.
It's almost like you went into the casino, you got what you wanted out of it, and now you're choosing to walk out of the casino versus like choosing option A or option B of going for gold or going for broke, kind of deal, kind of.
Oh yeah,
Is that like a good describer?
I remember being younger and always being hungry for more. I remember being younger and like, what's the next promotion? What's the next thing I can do? What sacrifice can I make to earn something more?
Because that's kind of where I am right now, actually. Yeah, like literally that.
Yeah. And so I did that with the company I was working for. It was always about what's the next promotion. I was trying to be the next big thing in the company. And before I was in this relationship with my wife, I was with a different woman for 7 years, and we ended up like we weren't meant for each other. And I'm happy. Like my wife is the best person. Like she's the best. I'm a big fan, huge fan. Would marry again.
Big fan.
I don't have to. You only have to do it once, but if I had to do it twice, I would run it back.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yes. Well, I would not recommend. She's mine. I can't. But the relationship I was in before was 7 years long, and one of the major pain points, one of the reasons we broke up, which ended up being a good thing, is that I was always more focused on work than on her because I had like accomplished having a long-term partner, and so I took it for granted. And instead, I was focused on what's the next thing, what's the next prize that I can aim for, and so I focused on work and let our relationship go by the wayside, and that was a dumb mistake. So now, I'm happy with where I am at work, and I work a lot right now. But I budget time for nothing, just to be with my wife and hang out. We chill on the couch and whatever. And it's not, we're not going out or making plans to like go apple picking or what the fuck ever. But we're just spending downtime with each other, and I go out of my way for that. We try and catch the same train in the morning, try and catch the same train at night. Like it's little things. where we make sure that's important, that kind of interpersonal self-actualization is way more important than any career goal. And there's value in a positive maintenance state where there is value gained by keeping some things the same and by keeping some things in good health, but not like dramatically changing them. And that's something that I've really changed with my diagnosis, with my medication, with my relationship, with getting older, whatever you want to call it. Um, I'm happy to keep pushing the envelope in Hearthstone, but when it comes to real life with how things are going with my career, how things are going with my wife, how things are going otherwise, that I would be lucky if I spent years working to get back to where I am if I left this behind. So I'm just going to stay here. And then if something comes up, something comes up. Like if Team 5 says, hey, we like you, move to California. I've already talked with her and like, we'll talk about it. And I think there's a real thing going on there. But also if it's like, hey, incremental promotion, slight raise, stay where you are, keep doing what you're doing, I can live with that. It's doable.
Yeah, everything you just said was very, 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 very realistic, honestly. Because, like, literally what you just said about, like, striving for more and just being hungry for more is quite literally where I am right now. Because my definition of me making it is probably a lot more harsher than a lot of people, and that's just because I want to be the best, and that's just because of how competitive I am. Like, literally, even if I've just, like, picked up something for the very first time, I want to be the best at it. I'm like, stupid competitive like that. But, like, how would I define my success? I would say that if I can make a living off of streaming, that is successful to me, and that would be where I've quote unquote made it, because that's the point that I want to be able to reach, to where I could literally do this and not have to worry about where my next meal or where my next bill is being paid from. Like, I would also say that, like, if I could get signed on to like F2K, that's like my biggest goal at the moment. I would say
It's a good team.
if I can like I don't have like a date that I'm like trying to like strive this by, because I feel like if you do that, it's just a very, very toxic mentality, because like you got to be able to be suitable for the grind life, but you can't let the grind life consume you, because it's just not going to be like, it's not healthy for you at the end of the day. But like I want to be able to be signed on to F2K, because that's another way of being legitimized in the streaming world, is being signed onto a team and being able to be paid to do this kind of stuff. And that's all I really want to be able to do, is I want to be able to make content and not have to worry about my bills being paid. Because at the moment, I'm currently being paid for being a student, and that's how I'm able to keep the roof over my head. And I'm lucky that, since I'm not like doing my schoolwork literally every single second of my life, I'm doing my content and the downtime that I have. Because if I would always like have some kind of project I'm working on, I like to keep myself busy, which is why I've done all these projects, why I'm doing a podcast now, why I'm actually thinking of doing Hearthstone skits in the future. I just don't have a way of producing them, so it's kind of hard to do something like that. But like I have a lot of different projects. I have a lot of things I want to be involved in.
I can relate.
But
I can relate to projects. I am familiar.
Yeah, I assume so.
But the question is, so this is a shift in my mentality that I don't like doing the age thing, but this felt like such a big difference between my 20s and my 30s of what do I want to do versus how do I want to feel, right? Like it's what are the things that I want to accomplish versus how do I want to feel on a day-to-day basis? Who do I want to be? And that's a really hard question to answer, because like I don't know, I was with my last long-term girlfriend from 18 to 25. And I was like, at 25, I was like, I got it all figured out. Been together 7 years, got this career, gonna really push it. She'll always be there by my side. And then everything kind of changed, right? Everything got disrupted. And I learned that it wasn't about the specific bullet points of my life that I could put on a life resume. It was about, how do I feel each day? Do I want to wake up? Do I want to go to sleep? What do I want to do? What do I feel like doing? Am I happy doing what I'm doing? Is it something that I find some value in? And that ended up shaping a lot of my decisions in a pretty remarkably different way. And there's nothing wrong with ambition. There's nothing wrong with growth or competition even. But when you focus on the things you want to do versus the way you want to feel, life becomes a to-do list, and it becomes like the the long jump in the Olympics, just like how much further can I get? How much further can I get? And I don't want life to be a competition with myself to feel like I'm constantly never measuring up. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I'm saying I remember feeling that way. And at the same time, when you want to grind out, when you want to become Clark HELLSCREAM, when you want that to be a brand name, what else are you gonna do? That's a grind. You gotta do it. You gotta get out there. You gotta make your name. As long as you're enjoying it and it gives value to you and you feel like that you're making a difference and you enjoy doing it, you should absolutely push it.
And
As long as that keeps being true.
I feel like you also have to necessarily get something out of it. And I'm not necessarily talking about
Yeah.
like a financial like a financial benefit, but like I am literally learning how to produce things. Like I am learning things that I could apply into the music world if I really wanted to from everything that I'm learning in the esports realm. Because it's essentially the same stuff. It's all marketing, it's all promotion, it's all advertising. It's all about enticing people to your product and essentially keeping them with your product if you have that kind of capability and if you have that kind of draw to your product. So it's like everything that I'm learning in the esports realm, I'm actually like trying to apply it into my band. And like case in point, there's like this music thing that's going on with Hearthstone creators. I think you might be aware of this already, but like the Hearthstone Cipher. Have you heard about this at all?
I'm vaguely aware of its existence. So it's when you talk about people that like projects, one Michael Lowe is a big fan of projects. He's got a lot of them. So I am unfamiliar with the details of the specific one. I know it is a Mike Lowe creation.
Actually, I don't think Mike Lowe's the one who created this one. This is from a guy named Ace, actually, who's putting this together.
Oh, Ace SSB?
Yes, yeah, that's him.
Yeah. I'm vaguely familiar with him as well.
Yeah, he is essentially trying to just get a whole bunch of content creators, and they're just gonna do raps. They're gonna do raps over a Hearthstone mixed beats. But like literally, my band is going to be is like I literally talked with them last week, and we're going to be doing the main music for this. So like literally next week we're going to be working on the first theme. We're gonna get a scratch track, and then we'll get it actually recorded. We'll send it over to him, and then we'll just we'll do that for the rest of the tracks. But like kind of like what I was talking about, like I am combining two gigantic passions of mine, music and gaming. And the gaming and music world is very, very intertwined. It's just the specifics are different. And I like to be able to learn something in one field and be able to apply it to another aspect of my life. And just like learning sales and learning business, probably the best thing that you can do for yourself in terms of like being as versatile as possible, because everyone's going to need a businessman at some point, and every single person is going to need a salesman depending on what kind of industry you're in. But like regardless whether or not you're selling products, you need to sell people on your ideas.
Yeah. And business is, do you understand how the puzzle pieces of finance and sales fit together? Do you understand how these things work? And so I can speak to someone about business, about the natures of profit and loss and return on investment and all that stuff. It comes up a lot in how the world works, especially in this part of the world, because America and capitalism go together like peanut butter and jelly, and you have to understand what keeps the wheels on the bus turning. You know, where does the money come from and what actually matters? And
What keeps the gas pumping?
Yeah, this is why I talk about esports and its relevance. You could eliminate esports, which they almost have. The amount they have is probably about right for keeping it going at a threadbare level, because it doesn't actually drive the product. You just need to have something, because there's a portion of your player base that will only keep playing if something says esports. But you want it as little as possible, because the rest of the game is way more important. And as long as you have something with a trophy at the end, the esports people will keep playing. Doesn't matter what it is.
It's a fair point. Like as long as you have something to strive for, it'll give people that competitive advantage. Like ladder is a very, very clear example, because everybody wants that rank one legend or rank one in whatever server of whatever game that you're playing in, because that's just competitive nature at its very, very finest. People pick up a game and want to be better than the other person.
So you just have to have the carrot and have the stick. And once you have that in play, as long as you have anything, that's enough. And the smaller, the better. Because the goal of the esports program is exist and be cheap. And if you've done both of those things, that's usually enough. Because people that decide they want to play a game competitively for a living, that is a captive audience. And if they decide to play your game, then you can do whatever you want, and they're not going to stop playing it. And if they do, usually, I don't know about your experience, The esports grinders that I know, they don't spend a lot of money on Hearthstone. They do whatever the cheapest thing is possible to build 4 decks on 3 servers, and they that's it.
Oh, if you're talking about
Usually not
people
that
that are
hard.
going on all 3 servers, 100%. But like, I would say that most people that I know that grind open cups probably pre-order the expansion every single time. Because like at that point you
Sure.
kind of have to. Like you need the cards. It's literally how you're gonna be able to qualify for those events and how you make your living.
With the new systems, you might not even need to do that anymore. Free core set, and like I don't know about you, I've got 12k gold saved from just quests. Like,
I've been opening a lot of packs, and that's just because I need dust for stupid legendaries. Okay, within this within the past 2 expansions, I have crafted Baron Rivendare, Millhouse Manastorm. I believe I re-enchanted Lorewalker Cho, and I think there's some other weird legendary I crafted for one specific combo. Or like I've crafted like epics that I use like once for one specific combo and then never touched it again. So like I'm always opening packs and I'm always like using my dust. But like right now I still have like 2k gold that I'm like just sitting on. And that's just because like the battle pass system has been like since it's been updated has been very, very well. You're getting a lot of gold for your return.
well, no, the battle pass has gone well. We don't know if the update mattered because we never saw it without the changes. It might have been this good the whole time and just dependent on events, but the first battle pass has been extremely profitable for most players, and we've only seen it post changes, but it's possible it would have gotten here anyways.
Potentially, I don't
I'm not gonna
remember
say, yeah.
what the changes were after the level 50, but like that's pretty much the main reason why I've been getting a lot of gold is because once you hit that level 50, it is so easy to level up. Like you complete one quest or whatever, and you're pretty much already leveled up after like 2 games.
But so you've seen those quests where like you pop a weekly and you clear 3 levels, right? In the
Uh,
past,
wait, you talk about one quest completing 3 levels, or just like completing?
like a weekly, like if you pop win 5 ranks,
Okay,
right? That usually like levels 3 times. That would have just been 1 level for 3 times the gold. They didn't give more gold. They just made it happen faster.
okay,
Just it
smaller
was
increments.
instead of 1 level for 150, it's 3 levels for 50. It's the same amount.
Okay.
So I'm not here to defend how they rolled it out because it was not a good rollout. It was a very poor rollout. But it's like that the battle pass would have probably been this profitable. And anyways, they're giving us more. The core set's free. I think it will be a lot easier for grinders to just have cards without having to worry about it, and really just everybody to have cards without worrying about it. And I think it's a nice positive change.
So we only have we've already been doing this for about 3 hours, and I want to make sure that we get to some of the questions that have been tagged because
Please keep me on track because I'm not going to do it. One of us has to.
yeah, right. And it's freaking weird that I have to be the one to keep everyone in line because I'm always the one that wants to do the weird wacky stuff. But let me go ahead and pull up some of these questions real quick. I actually did have these pulled up beforehand, but I got distracted. But like your post
That'll happen.
in particular had a lot of interaction. So like you've already seen some of the questions, and you also retweeted it on your side. So let me just go ahead and pull up the first question here. This one is from Delete Priest. But he is asking, do movie theaters really give a shit if I bring my own candy from the grocery store? What about when I bring in my own beverage? What if that beverage is beer? And I'm assuming that this is probably not the greatest because, you know, snack retail, snack sales is literally what makes the most profit for movie industry, right? So you're the expert. Go ahead and take this away.
Movie theaters, as a corporation, yes, of course, we wish you to enjoy our fine snacks at the concession stand, which are sold for a very reasonable price, especially if you have your membership card. Movie theater employees, the answer is either fuck no or very yes. Those are your 2 options, right? Because 90% of the time, no, they don't care. 10% of the time, they're power tripping and they pretend they're cops and they really want to get people. Their entire goal is to bust kids that are sneaking into R-rated movies, which is not something we should be doing, or bust people bringing in food, whatever. They shouldn't care, but they really do because they get to exert power over a situation they otherwise feel they have no control over, so they will hunt you down. But just don't make it obvious.
Just don't make it obvious.
Don't be drunk and sloppy. I would rather you buy from us. We actually keep about half the ticket sales. And so like I'm just happy if you buy a ticket, but if you buy food from us, that's fine. And here's a little secret. Clark, what do you think the most expensive part of a theater bag of popcorn is? The most expensive ingredient.
Wait, I feel like this is a trick question. I'm gonna
It
go ahead and
absolutely
say the
is. It is
bag.
100% a trick
Gonna say
question.
the bag.
False. Nope.
What?
Bag is usually 4 cents unless it's branded, in which case it's a profit to the theater if we took them off the truck and threw them in the garbage.
Wow. Okay.
We get paid more by the branding than it costs us to make the bags.
By like the branding of the movie, or like
if we get branded bags or cups or whatever from a studio, right? Like if they advertise, if we took the bags off the truck and threw them away, then we would make money off the branding. We don't do that, but we could. The most expensive part of a bag of popcorn is the person handing it to you.
Oh, okay, all right. See, that's the trick question.
Margin.
See, I wanted to.
I told you it was a trick question. It was explicitly a trick question. I stated it was. So, if you sneak in a candy and a bottle of water, and you say, "Hey, I got one over them," and then you go buy a medium popcorn, I'm laughing all the way to the bank. Go nuts. Bring in whatever you want. Just don't get sloppy. Don't make a mess. If you really want to go crazy, pick up your trash after yourself, because that is an abnormal thing. I would obviously rather you buy from me. If you bring in beer, it is technically breaking the law in most jurisdictions. Shouldn't do that. At least I'm supposed to tell you not to do that. You do what you want to do. Do the employees care? Not really.
So here's a question, at least for me personally. Like, there's one movie theater in my state, or at least in my city, that actually sells alcoholic beverages. Like you were saying,
yes.
Like, is that very common in movie theaters? And if so, why don't they do that very frequently? I'm assuming it's mostly because it's a family establishment, right?
The only reason we wouldn't do it is if it's illegal in that state or jurisdiction. We should do it everywhere. Everyone should do it everywhere.
Like, it's illegal to bring beer into movie theaters?
To sell in New York City, you have to get a special permit, and for a while, like nobody could do it, and you have to qualify as a restaurant. There are a lot of puritanical laws in many states, especially in the Northeast, where you are barred from having a bar inside your theater. There are other places like Louisiana, especially New Orleans, where you have a daiquiri stand on each floor, and it's wonderful. I love New Orleans, by the way. Not just because of that. New Orleans is a wonderful city, period. People are really nice, and the food is great. Everything will make you fat, but like whatever. But there are a lot of local regulations. I think that if the businesses had their way, and if most people had their way, there's no reason to not have a bar at a theater, because we cut people off pretty aggressively if they start to get sloppy. Mm-hmm. But sitting and watching a movie in a recliner with a beer just feels right.
Yeah.
So I think that if your local theater does not have a bar, they probably wish they could have one.
Okay. Yeah, because like that's always the biggest thing about venues and being a musician. I'm very, very aware of this, but like venues will obviously upcharge the alcohol because not only will people pay for it, but it's how they make their freaking money. Like it's how bars and like literal places that only sell beer make their money because they're upcharging the alcohol. You're just buying it there because you have no other place to get it. So it'd be something very similar, yeah. But I didn't know that like there were state laws that stop that from being a thing.
State, sometimes county, sometimes city. There are a lot of governments that decide they know better than their citizens, and I don't see why having a beer while watching a movie is a big problem. But also, it depends, because I live in New York City where there's lots of public transit, and if there's no public transit, then it's a lot harder to justify the sale.
Fair. And actually, speaking of New York, the next question is the best New York City tourist experience. I myself have only been to New York City once, and that was in 2009, I think. 2009 or 2006, like back when I was younger. And I really didn't get to see too much about the city, but like as someone who lives there, what are some of the best tourist attractions? Because obviously that's the biggest thing that New York is known for.
Katz's Deli. It's on Orchard over by 2nd Avenue off the F train. If you've seen When Harry Met Sally, have you seen When Harry Met Sally? Have you seen that movie?
I don't think so, actually.
Great movie. Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. Really amazing film. It has the best pastrami sandwich in the world. In New York City, there's a lot of things to see. It's a better place to be, and it's a better place to eat. Especially once Rona is over. Katz's Deli. pastrami on rye, and what you want to do is you want to tip your. So they give you a ticket when you walk in. They have a long bar of guys that just cut pastrami, and walk up to them, tell them that you want a pastrami on rye with mustard. Give them $1 per sandwich right there. Put it in the tip jar. Make them see it. They will cut some hot, fresh pastrami and put it on a plate and give it to you to taste while you wait for them to make your sandwich.
Ooh.
Just trust me on this.
Ooh.
This is the thing to do. This is the thing to do. They make their own pastrami in-house. They smoke it. They make it. It is life-changing. There are a bunch of other food places I could talk about, and food is the reason to go to New York City. You can go to the Empire State Building. It's a tall building. They have those other places. You can go to the Statue of Liberty. It's a lady holding a torch. She's nice, but like you don't have to go out of your way for it. It's try visiting the other boroughs, but like just go there and visit someone that you know there. And if they say you have to check out this spot, trust them and go along. Just eat some good food and hang out and get used to the idea that you're going to be walking a lot, you're going to be on the subway, and you're not going to have to drive and you can get around. But the subway is magic because you can get pissed drunk and then go straight home.
Oh, it's a
You just
beautiful
go out.
experience. I actually
like, 'cause-
dealt with that during my times in Montreal because the subway is very, very common there as well.
It's public transit means you can go out and socialize and become inebriated as one does, and then you go home and you never have to worry about killing anybody when you drive. You
Yep.
just get on the train and you're just that asshole. And like I've been that guy, but like it's fine. Just don't puke and don't yell at people and just put your headphones on and be quiet and don't miss your stop. Stand up if you have to so you don't fall asleep, and then go home. And then that's it. So like just enjoy the experience. What I love the most about New York City is that there are so many places I haven't been to yet, but it's not the tourist attractions. It's that day-to-day life is interesting, and you can walk around, and yeah, there are ups and downs, and yeah, it's expensive, and yeah, it's messy, and yeah, they're like, homeless people will yell at you, and like, someone will ask you for money. Don't talk to them or make eye contact or take your headphones off. Just keep going. But ask your friend about the hole-in-the-wall restaurant that they know. They will tell you they know someplace that nobody else knows about. Somebody else knows about it. Humor them. Trust me. And then just go and eat some good food and hang out with your friends and socialize and stay out too late and then take the subway home and then do it again the next day.
Now that we're talking about subways, do you have any particular subway stories? Because every single New Yorker is aware of the shenanigans, as the best way to put it, I guess, that can happen on public transit.
I mean, it's just like it doesn't even faze me anymore. It's a few years ago when my mom was visiting, my mom and dad were visiting, and so we were hanging out, and my mom wanted to go to the Macy's, which is a tourist trap to end all tourist traps. It's a giant department store, way too big, not feasible to shop. And if you're trying to shop there, you're there for 4 or 5 hours. I don't really love shopping anyways. I go on the internet and I click the thing I want to buy.
Yep.
But mom wanted to shop at the Macy's, so we did that. It's like, all right, the subway's right over there. We can go home. She's like, no, let's take a cab. I'll pay for it. I was like, okay. So we called in a cab, and behind us, in the middle of 34th and 8th, there's a little the island with the shrub, that berm, I guess, whatever we call it. And we were waiting for the cab, and mom turned around. There's a homeless guy just peeing there. She's like, "Guy is peeing." It's like, "Yes, mom. It's 34th Street. Get in the cab." And we just got in the cab and we went, and he finished his pee. He did his thing. We did our thing, and we just both went our separate ways. And I don't know. It's just that sort of thing is so mundane.
It's just so normal.
Like today. I got off the train, and the next car down, 4 cops were shaking down this homeless guy that fell asleep inside on the floor of the train car. I'm just like, I glanced over. I didn't stop playing my turn and Slay the Spire. I just kept playing my turn while I was walking up the stairs to my train. Just looked over, I was like, oh, there's 4 cops waking up that homeless guy. I gotta catch this next transfer. Well, it's just normal. It's just how it is.
Day-to-day life in New York City. It's why it's the city that never sleeps, right? Wait, no, that's New York. No, that's Las Vegas. What's the term for New York? It's just the Big Apple.
The large apple. The large apple is what we call it here. Yeah, it's a very large apple. But it's also, there's a lot of socioeconomic issues in the country, and there are homeless people in every major urban area, but that's a topic for another podcast.
Let's go ahead and move on to the next question. I actually have an answer for this, but I'll let you give your answer first. How many holes does a straw have? Justify your answer.
You give me your answer first.
All right, I'm assuming that this is something you already know the answer to, quote unquote. Is there like an actual like for sure answer, or is this just like a
No,
riddle?
this is a question designed to make people argue.
Okay. So I feel like there's one of two different answers here. There's the obvious answer. Well, yes, there are two holes. There's the one at the top and the bottom. But then there's the other argument to where if you cut a straw all the way down, it's literally just like a weird rectangle-ish kind of thing. So therefore, it would have no holes. It's like just one thing that's connected. So I want to say that the second one is probably correct, just because at some point there are no holes on a straw until you connect it, and then it makes two holes. So, am I in the ballpark?
Yeah. Well, there's no correct answer here. Like, it's a hollow tube is not a shape that is defined by its openings. It's a hollow tube, right? A hollow tube. It is defined by the vacant space, designed by the entire tube. That is a single hole that goes all the way the length of the straw. But in terms of how we think about things, Celestalon gave the best answer to this. If you made a straw that was solid, and then you poked a hole in the top, and then you poked a hole in the bottom, you could drink out of it. How many holes did you poke? You did two things. It's two holes. So, in reality, as a mathematical construct, it is a hollow tube that defining it by holes is mislabeling the issue. It is a semantics problem.
This got very philosophical.
Like, if you say this, it's because it's unclear because the framing is incorrect. It is purposely unclear framing, specifically to piss people off and make them argue.
This actually kind of reminds me of like, oh, hello, Xena. Well, say hello to the doggo.
Hi, Papa!
Probably doesn't like that I've been in front of a computer for 3 hours in a row. No, you're not.
I'm sorry. I took Clark from you. Clark promised me that he would give you ear scritches later, though.
Yes, all of them. She gets all of the belly rubs, too, because that's, like, her favorite thing in the world. But there was this birthday card that my uncle gave me back, I think, when I turned 13 or 14 or something like that. And the card had said, I will give you $100 if you can answer this next question correctly. And the question was, this card, true or false, this card has a giant hole in it. And it literally had a hole in the card. And then you opened it, it's like, obviously I answered, yes, it does have a big hole in it. And then you open it and it says, false, this card has two giant holes in it. Because it went all the way through both pages.
Yeah, but you need one hole to have two holes because you can't just go from 0 to 2. It's
the framing of the question, though. It's the framing of the question that's the trick part, because everyone's gonna say, yes, there's a giant hole in this card, but it's just to get you.
Yeah, it's that card is a real dick.
Yes, it is, and I didn't get $100 for my birthday. Like, what the hell, man? Okay, so let me go ahead and queue up the next question. Let's see here. Okay, so the picture that I used in the post of you is actually one that you sent me. And the very first question I believe that was posted was, the picture makes Hat look the same height as the table. How tall is Hat?
How tall do you think I am, Clark?
Okay, let's see here. Looking around your room, let's see here. I want to say that you're on the shorter side. Would it be safe to assume that you are shorter than 5 foot 6 inches?
It is extremely safe.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go with the final answer of 5'2".
5'3", you were close.
Dang, all right, close enough.
Very
close
close.
enough.
Yes, I am a small person. No, my wife is 5'2", so I am technically the tall one.
Ah, well, there you go. You won in that department. But was this table just like really high up, or are you just like on your knees?
I kneeled.
Okay,
to
you
get
kneeled.
A picture with the milkshake.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure this wasn't like a really big table, because if so, it would be even more hilarious.
No, it is not that tall. Though if it was, that would be a giant milkshake, and I'd be all about it.
Two other questions that I'm looking at right now. This is from Nate Dogg and from Bitbreaker. Bitbreaker specifically asked, "Why is oatmeal?"
Bitbeaker, yeah.
Oh, Bitbeaker. I'm sorry. He asked, "Why is oatmeal soup?" And Nate Dogg was saying, "I want the whole."
No, Nate Wolf, not Nate Dogg.
I don't know why I always say this. I always say Nate Dogg.
They're different animals.
I know. Like, jeez. But Nate Wolf said, "I want the whole diatribe on food: hot dog, taco, oatmeal soup, etc., etc. So apparently this is something that's been, talked
I am
about
known
before.
for this discussion. The fastest way to instigate a conversation with me is food debates. And so so the oatmeal story is a separate story. Hot dogs, I have been on the side of hot dogs as a sandwich for a while, but I was convinced recently hot dogs are a taco. If you think about how you hold a hot dog, taco-esque. You think about if you have a sandwich, you describe by what's in it. You have a taco, right? It can be a fish taco, it can be a beef taco, it can be a pork taco. It's a taco. Hot dog's a hot dog, taco's a taco. A sandwich, it's a pastrami sandwich, a corned beef sandwich, a roast beef sandwich. It's not really just like a sandwich because you got to know what kind of sandwich, but not what kind of hot dog is it. It's a hot dog. Though there is a place here that we would go to if you were here and the Rona wasn't the Rona, called Criff Dogs, where my favorite hot dog is a tsunami dog, where it's a bacon-wrapped teriyaki marinated hot dog covered in scallions and pineapple.
I love pineapple, so sign me the fuck up. Oh my god, that sounds delicious.
It's really, 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 really good. But I think it's taco because both of the ergonomic reasons and also the definitional reasons. And also it's defined by the core is all that matters, and then you put a bunch of toppings on it and whatever, and you do it your own way. It's all all about the toppings. But is oatmeal soup. So my wife walked past a place, and this spawned 3 days of discussion in our house. Not discussion. I was mad about it, and she was surprised that I held on to it.
Just something that couples will bicker about. Just not necessarily because they want to argue, but just because they want to win. That's something I do with my girlfriend all the time. Is that I just want to win.
We should be clear about what's going on here. I want to clear my wife's name. She mentioned one thing, and then I wouldn't drop it for 3 days, and she was like, "Why are you still talking about it?" That's what really happened. So it's not that we were bickering; it's that I said things and she kept not caring. So she walked by a place where they had listed soup of the day, and the top item was oatmeal. What the fuck? If you went in a restaurant and you ordered the soup of the day, you said, just bring me the soup of the day. And they said, okay. And they brought you a bowl of oatmeal. It'd be like, is this somebody else's order? Is this someone else's? This is not, it's not soup. That's not what this is. I understand I eat it with a spoon, but it's not the same thing. It's even, if you want to stretch definition, it's more of a stew. But so like, soup of the day, oatmeal. What the shit? That's not.
It's not like you would give someone cereal if they asked for soup. Like, even though it may technically be soup, like, it's not what we're talking about.
Even if it's definitional, it's not culturally appropriate. No one would assume. No one would be like, "Oh yeah, I just want some soup. Let me have a bowl of oatmeal." No one would say that, and if they did, you'd look at them funny, right? So, the next day, I order from the diner. We're both working from home or whatever.
Ordering the soup.
Like, oh. I said, "I got you some soup," and she opens up. She's like, "Is this oatmeal?" And she was probably over the bit at this point, but I was continuing to push it. But she was not enthused because oatmeal's not fucking soup. And I said, I got you soup. And then she opens, she's like, is this oatmeal? I'm not going to say that oatmeal can't qualify as a soup. I'm saying if you asked for the soup of the day at any restaurant and you got oatmeal, you would say, this can't be right. And to list it underneath soup of the day, put the oatmeal first and then also soup of the day. Or like soup of the day and also we have oatmeal.
You're so passionate about this, I can't handle it.
Like, it's just categorizing oatmeal as your soup of the day. Oh
my god, I'm almost crying.
I couldn't let it go, and she brought it up, and she knew what she had done as soon as she mentioned it, because she saw my face, and then like we talked for 10 minutes during dinner, and then I was just like, and then I brought it up again like we're talking about now, and she's like, oh no, what did I do? And
oh my god. I will literally do this all the time with my girlfriend, where like I will literally just make like a pun, or like I will try to make like a joke and just keep going over and over and over again, and it'll get to the point where like literally there'll be like a silence in the car for a second, and then she'll be like, I know you're thinking about this, just stop. It's like, you don't need to keep going. Like, she could literally hear the gears of my brain turning, trying to make like a pun, or like trying to make like fun of a situation or something, like, Because, like, I don't know about you, but I feel like a stand-up comedian around my girlfriend. I'm always trying to make stupid jokes work.
We're married now, so, like, I don't try that hard, but I definitely don't shy away from them. But I'm not going out of my way to, like, I'm not trying to make her laugh, but I will say funny things and I enjoy when she laughs. But also, like, I'll just be a pain in the ass.
Just to make the joke work.
No, just to be a pain in the ass.
Ah, okay. There's also that aspect.
Yeah, no. Sometimes it's for me. Sometimes it's not for her. Sometimes it's for me.
Literally, that's how it is to be a comedian. Sometimes, if you make yourself laugh, that's all some people care about. Oh God, I would love to be a comedian, but I need to make a stand-up act before I could say anything about like that kind of stuff.
I feel like being a stand-up comic is probably worse than trying to be a full-time streamer, because like you have to be really not funny in front of people for a while. It seems horrible.
In today's time, it's not even the fact that you have to be funny. Like you have to not be funny for a while. It's like if you are funny, like I watched a lot of like dirty comics and a lot of like non-PC people. Like just case in point, like I love Bill Burr is one of my favorite comedians. I love Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
I love Joey Diaz, and I love Joe Rogan. All those guys. If you were to ask someone who's very, very PC, they're probably not a fan of their material because they're very, very offensive and they just say stuff to be funny. Nowadays, it really feels like people are holding comedians to where if you say a joke, this is literally what you believe. That's not what's going on here, my guy. Like, I don't want to tell people to stop being sensitive because, like, you have to be sensitive to a degree. But if you literally go into a comedy club, you know for a fact that this person is literally up there to be funny. Why are you digging so deep into this stuff? The guy is not trying to dig into you personally. He literally thought about this, is making a joke. And, like, obviously if something crosses lines, call it out. But everybody feels like every single comedian that I watch will, like, joke about the person with the blog who will take some joke out of context and will end up making a headline about them and stuff like that. And just, like, as someone who really, really enjoys comedy, and is, like, this was, like, literally something that I bonded with my father about, like, I absolutely hate it when someone is trying to take away something as pure as comedy. Because if you think about it with, like, in terms of, like entertainment, there is really nothing like stand-up comedy. In terms of, like where else are you going to have a bunch of people gathering just so they can laugh? To where only one person is talking and that's all that matters. It's not very common nowadays.
I mean, you can be a comedian without being a huge asshole, like John Mulaney, obviously amazing.
That is true.
I do love Dave Chappelle's For What It's Worth special, one of the best comedy specials ever. I really liked Louis C.K. I don't watch him anymore, but I've seen him live 3 or 4 times, and then turns out he's not a great person, so I don't engage with his content anymore, but, like, he made some really good stuff, moved on from it because you can't do what he did. There are ways to be a comedian without being a dickhole, and it's not just when people's comedy is taken out of context. I can't think of too many people that made jokes that were too aggressive but were otherwise stand-up people that have had career trouble that I could think of. But maybe I'm just missing some examples. It's mostly people that have questionable extracurriculars that end up in trouble.
I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but, like, a good case in point in terms of, like, what stand-up comedy can be is, this is, like, kind of like the go-to for Bill Burr, but literally his Philadelphia rant. If you've ever seen that, if you literally take that show out of context, the guy sounds like an absolute asshole. And, like, Bill Burr is an absolute asshole. That's kind of like his draw, is that he's gonna say this stuff that, like, not necessarily that you're too scared to say, but, like, he's just gonna say stuff completely unfiltered in his own way, and he doesn't care what you think about it. But, like, literally that entire rant was him going for 11 to 12 minutes telling these people that they're gonna get cancer. I hope that you die, and that I hope that you guys never have children that are successful. And it's like just forget what he's saying for a second, but, like, think about where what other form of media can you do something like that and have it be not necessarily like a positive, but somebody is watching this and thoroughly enjoying it in a way that, like, I just, I don't know, man. I love the idea of shit talking. Competitive shit talking
Sure.
is something that happened a lot with me in high school, and I was so bad at it to where like now I can finally like engage in it, and I feel like I'm kind of late. But regardless, it's just
I mean, I've been there, but it's good-natured bullying is still bullying. Like the Philadelphia rant, which, to be clear, as someone that lived in Philly,
there is some
that
context to
was,
that. Yes.
and the context is that was Camden, New Jersey. And say what you will about Philly, Camden, New Jersey is like one of the top 3 murder cities in the country. It's not a happy place.
Yeah.
And the person that came up before him got destroyed by the crowd. And so Bill Burr came out with both guns blazing, and he's really good. I've seen Bill Burr live, not in Philadelphia, just doing comedy. He's funny. His bit about the muffins. I love his bit about the muffins, where he's punching the muffins.
Yes.
And
just getting
so,
mad at this old lady because she's just so happy about these muffins, and he's just literally sitting. It's like, God, why am I so mad at this lady who's making muffins? I just wanna.
And then daydreaming about punching all the
literally.
muffins, and then he starts laughing like a lunatic. He tries to explain it like the muffin. And he's a really funny guy, and like Billy Redhead, like I understand
Billy
that he's
Bitch
a little
Tits.
misogynistic in his comedy. I get it. I feel 2 ways about it, but like I find that he's a funny guy, and I love that when Joe started talking to him on his podcast about mass, he's like, Joe, we're not doctors. Do what the doctors say.
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah.
It's like he doesn't take shit. He's a smart guy. He's got a brand, whatever. It's not the same as Louis C.K., who did some gross shit, and then like it doesn't feel the same to watch him anymore.
Yeah.
So I watched a lot of him, and then like he did some gross shit, and now when I watch him, I feel gross, and it kind of tainted it. So it's comedy is the thing is like when you have an environment that's built on being so toxic and aggressive by design, it's hard to differentiate work from who people really are. And that usually works in favor of the people with the power, which are usually established people and are usually men. And they usually don't use that power for good. It's usually for evil. So building an environment that is inherently competitive and toxic and all about one-upping each other usually rewards the people that shouldn't have that kind of power. And so it's tough. It's complicated. I don't mean to wade into the debate or whatever. I like comedians that are funny without being at people's expense. One of my favorite comedians, John Panette, may he rest in peace. Really, really funny guy. Did a special where he just talked crap about himself all the time. Just talk about how fat he was for 2 hours. Hilarious, incredible, amazing. And so, you don't have to be an asshole to be a good comic. And there are some people that are assholes that are good comics. And Bill Burr makes a brand out of being kind of a jerk, but like he's really, really funny. I enjoy his stuff, but there's some people that I can't watch anymore because of what they've done outside of comedy. And it's unfortunate that the environment does seem to foster that stuff. I will say, Bo Burnham, incredible, prodigy, talent, whatever word you want to use.
Yes, I 100% agree with all of that. Comedy is 100% like it is dependent on what you say, obviously, because you need to be funny. But at the end of the day, it is one of those forms of entertainment to where it's kind of like streaming, to where if you are literally building a brand around yourself. If you taint your brand by doing something that's negative, like no matter what you want to insert in that equation, if you taint your self-image, it's gonna taint your brand. Therefore, you're not gonna be able to do this kind of stuff anymore. So it's just like you gotta be able to have that mix, obviously, but it also just pays not to be a total asshole. Like you could be a funny asshole, just don't be a dick about it.
Don't send any DMs that would cancel you if they got screenshotted.
Yes.
Like don't do anything in private that you don't want in public. It's that simple. That it's and if your motivation is I have to not be a jerk in DMs, probably be a better person. But if your goal is just like be aware of the world around you, it happens naturally.
Okay, moving on to because we actually completely went off the rails of the questions just because I fucking love comedy, man. I will always try to defend it to the best of my abilities. So this is coming from Baku Moon Eater. 2 favorite questions for Hat. Favorite podcast episode in recent memory and favorite blooper from a podcast that didn't make it in. Wait, hold on a minute. So you literally can have a time where you record a podcast and then just decide not to post it? Or is he talking about like a clip or something?
I assume moments. I do a lot of manual editing on episodes. A lot of manual editing. So I don't know if he's asking like what I've listened to or what I've produced. I can't tell which. So I'll answer both.
Okay.
What I've produced, the most recent episode of the Vicious Syndicate podcast was incredibly fun with the core set talk. Zach completely surprised me when he had to spell Mage Go Burr, and I had to talk to the audience, be like, I didn't expect that either. That was really enjoyable. My favorite moment of Coin Concede ever. My co-host Bodicus is a wonderful person who has some very strange convictions. And there was this article a while ago called the Hearthstone Pup Date, where they posted the pictures of all the dogs of the people that work in the Hearthstone team, but they pretended that they actually worked on the Hearthstone team. The Hearthstone, like Gary is a business dog. And Bodicus was furious that they lied about the dogs' jobs. He was really upset that they said the dogs had jobs. Like, they're cute. They don't have jobs.
All these dogs are unemployed.
Every time I listen back to it, I cry laughing. I played it for my wife because she saw me, like, I was editing the show and I was crying laughing at my desk, just listening to headphones like a crazy person. She's like, what are you talking about? And I just put the headphones on her head and she just listened. And she couldn't stand up. She was laughing so hard. So he's a wonderful man, and that is my favorite podcast moment ever. It made the final episode. Blooper, gosh, that's hard to remember because usually I just put them at the end of the show, right after the as stingers at the end. I don't usually cut too many things out that I can think of. I'm sure there was something, but nothing comes to mind right now.
Yeah, as of right now, I really don't cut a whole bunch of stuff. Like obviously I'll have to edit this and I'll have to get rid of the restroom breaks and stuff like that. But like aside from just like short jump cuts, I don't really want to like get rid of anything. Like even if it's like somewhat like controversial, I just want to put it out there just because who knows, maybe.
Well, that's the format of this show, right? It's
yeah.
when you make a podcast that's like weekly informational, we try and keep it a little tighter just to make sure that nobody's listening to it. Like if they're using it to catch up on stuff, we want to make sure that's intentional.
Okay.
So if there's any ramble or anecdote or whatever that doesn't belong, I can snip it. I can nudge it a little bit. Like sometimes
edit it down.
There will be 2 minutes. That's a good 1 minute story, so I'll make it 1 minute, right? And it's a good story, but I don't need the whole thing.
Okay, that'd be something I should look into. Like usually I just try to like I haven't really figured out what exactly I want to do, like the formatting of this, but like on the first episode, I kind of kept it a little bit simple and just had pictures on the screen. But then on the second episode, I actually like had the questions like typed out and whatnot. So as I do this more often, I'll figure out a format that I like to enjoy, that I like to do a little bit more. But the way that I like see my video projects in general is just like every single video I do, I try to do one thing new. Unless it's like my deck spotlight videos, like those are 100% figured out. I don't need to add anything more else to those. But like all these other videos, I always try to at least improve one aspect of them if at all possible. Do you do something similar with like your podcasts, or at least at the beginning when you were making these?
Improvement is nice, and there's some things that happen kind of organically. Like my Hades show in particular is pretty early on, and so there was a section that I put in there, the build bragging section, where it's like, describe a build you played for fun. But then when I started interviewing people that had been making Hades content for 2 years, they're like, I don't play this game for fun off stream. That section became less relevant for them, so I would skip it for those players, but bring it back for people that were still more fresh with the game or had a build they wanted to talk about. And so that happens organically. But with shows with more structure, sometimes people tune in for the notes that you're going to hit, and changing too much is just as bad as not changing enough.
It's distracting.
It's not the same thing every week, right? It's if you open the paper and sports was the front page 1 week and then world news was the other week, and I guess papers do that. I don't know. But it's if you when you do something consistently and it's part of your weekly routine. Who's a streamer you watch a lot?
Let's use Luker as an example, just because he's probably the streamer that I watch the most.
So if you tuned into Luker, and he was playing, you tuned in, and he was queuing up some BGs, you'd be like, "What's going on, buddy?" Right? It's a little weird. It's not. When you watch Luker, you watch like lightly salted high legend gameplay, right? And he's really good. He's not afraid to tell you what he's thinking. Smart guy. And won't take bullshit, and he plays constructed. So if you tuned in and he was like having a great time playing some Bee Gees, you'd be like, "What's going on here? It doesn't feel right."
Yeah,
And
it's
you
out
would
of
talk to him
place.
and he's a friend of yours and you know he's a nice guy and like
Check up
he's
on
good
him.
at games.
Yo, are you okay, bro? This isn't usually like you. Is everything all right?
It would just be like it would make you feel a little weird, and it's not like you'd necessarily click off, but you'd be like,
You'd have a double
this
take
doesn't.
about it. Yeah, it's just not what you
Yeah.
expect.
So
Okay.
it's if we're recording 3.5 hours of raw footage for this show, my God. And then like it's a heavily edited 60-minute podcast at the end. They're like, what happened? Where did the other 2.5 hours go? That's not what this show is about. So you want to make improvements, you want to make iterations, but you don't want to revolutionize every time. Because changing too much too fast is just as bad as keeping too many things the same.
Yeah, like there is such thing as being too innovative, and Apple should take a page out of that. Cause like, good lord, there is such thing as being too just being too ahead of the times, I guess.
Complacent.
Yeah,
Oh, well, kind of. There's a balance there. Like, Google tries new things all the time, and then when something's successful, they kill it half the time, and that's not enjoyable either. Because I invested in Google Play Music, and like I used that for years, and I was like, all right, this is cool. It's finally stable. Nope, YouTube Music. This product sucks. So I'm switching to Spotify. The thing that I liked, instead of keeping it stable, they nerfed it, and now I have to switch platforms to something that doesn't get nerfed.
Speaking of things that get nerfed, New Yorkers really don't have cars. So like when I first read this, I actually didn't have the context that you lived in New York. But the next question is, does Hat own a car? And if so, what occasions bring it out of storage?
I live in car country, New York. Like New York City, people think of Manhattan. It's rare to own a car in Manhattan. I live in Northeast Queens. I have a garage. I have a garage and a car. Like there's one train near here that goes to Manhattan. If you are not going to or in Manhattan, you need a car. So I have one and use it regularly for groceries and food and going
Typical
places.
life, yeah, daily routine.
Yeah, and so like most days when I'm going to work, I walk to the train station. If I'm doing anything that's not working, you need the car or you need Grubhub or DoorDash or whatever. So, pretty regular use. The past 2 weeks now, but otherwise, like, got to go to Stop and Shop.
So this next question I'm kind of confused by, so I wonder if this will spark another philosophical debate. But the next question is just why?
Says why?
Just why? Why?
Who asked this? Who asked this?
Kevin Ellis, Multizord on Twitter. Multizord? That means anything?
I'm gonna look. Kevin, yes, no, he's a former permanent Hearth casual post, and a current sometimes. I'm gonna respond to his other question. His other question when I was talking about Loop Hero was, how many of these games are you gonna get me into? And my answer to Kevin is yes. Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, like
You ask.
I see you and Ixar posting about Hades a lot, and the only reason why I even get I'm pretty sure that I get that content is because my brother has told me a lot about Hades, and literally any time that I talk about any game when I have my phone around, guess what ads I'm seeing for the next day?
Yeah.
Like,
you should say My Little Pony out loud a bunch and see what happens the next day. Just see what happens.
Dude, okay, no, I've had my girlfriend over, literally, and then the next day I get, like, Bratz commercials on my YouTube. I'm like... like, I'll, like, literally get girls' toys ads after my girlfriend stays over for a day.
Okay, say
Google.
My Little Pony out loud 5 times. Say it 5 times.
All right, if this actually works, I will screenshot you this in tomorrow, but I will actually say that my brother was actually into My Little Pony for a little bit. In fact, his favorite My Little Pony was Rainbow Dash. Oh, wait, no, it was, I think, Fluttershy. And the only reason why I know these names is because my brother was really into My Little Pony, and also Hot Diggy Demon did some animations about My Little Pony called the Dot Mauve series, which, if you're into weird animations, 100% would recommend it because it's not like your typical My Little Pony. It's it's not for kids.
Yes, no, it reminds me of Happy Tree Friends.
Literally, yeah, it's like Happy Tree
Yeah,
Friends,
yeah.
except oh god, I actually remember watching that show back when it was like on Mondo Media when they had like a bunch of different animations that they had. Like, did you ever watch this
15 years
show?
ago.
You ever watch Dick Figures by chance?
I did not.
Okay, just because some people may be weirded out by the name, it's a stick figure animation. Okay, that's all it was. It was just this red versus blue. It'd be like, you know, the red guy was this really extreme dude that would just do all this really stupid stuff, and the blue guy was like sensitive, trying to get a girlfriend, trying to be normal, and the red guy would just make the blue live guys hell. Like, that's pretty much all it was. But it's the same. It's the same studio that made Happy Tree Friends, Mondo Media, and I actually grew up with them on YouTube, so.
That explains a lot about that generation.
Dude, like that
yeah,
generation grew up on like Ren and Stimpy though.
Yeah, speaking of problematic creators. But yes, Ixar and I actually had a nice thread, which kind of mind blowing. I didn't expect to ever have a conversation with Ixar about video games, but we were talking about Demon Souls, Hades, and Loop Hero last night, and roguelikes are kind of like the genre that I've been exploring the most over the past year or two, and there was some good examples of them, and also Demon Souls, which is a separate thing. But yeah, Hades is dope. Big fan. Played a lot of Hades.
All right, so the last question that we're gonna be doing today, because this is the only other one that you haven't this is the only one that it's either a question or you haven't responded to. But this one's coming from Don Alto, and I guess I'll also ask the question of how many podcasts you're a part of. But he is wondering what the name of your next podcast will be.
No. No
more.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you do it. So I'm gonna say I am tapped out for full-time podcasts. I am done. I am with it. And Hades is a special game because it made me go outside my comfort zone and get wife approval for it. The game is that good. It's been 6 months later in a single-player game, and I've been playing it every day for a month. Still, took some downtime, but like, still that engaging. The question I'm going to redirect to is from Daggard. He said, this I think is the real last question right here.
Oh, what is your favorite Chrono Trigger track?
Top 3 Chrono Trigger tracks. All right. The Zeal theme is not in my top 3. It's a great song. It's very good. Top 3. Number 1, Frog's theme. Very close with number 2, which is Battle with Magus. Very, very close. But Frog's theme has a couple really pivotal moments, in particular when he gets the Masamune and when he talks to Cyrus's grave. Spoilers, I know, the game's 25 years old, whatever. Magus' theme, like Battle with Magus, very close number 2. Robo's theme number 3, really positive and uplifting. I do really like the Zeal theme. I think the Black Temple or the Black Omen theme is actually really good. End of Time is kind of chill. Really, the entire soundtrack for that game is just a banger.
Chrono Trigger is a Final Fantasy game, right? Like kind of.
It's a JRPG, but like.
But okay, so it's not the Final Fantasy series then.
Correct.
Okay.
It is made by Square, who makes the Final Fantasy series, but it's a standalone title with independent story, and it's really good in the way that, like, when people ask me what makes Hades great, it's like, no, there's nothing bad. Like, there's nothing wrong. There's no rough edge. Chrono Trigger is every trope of a JRPG you can think of, but there's no rough edge. Everything is really, really good. Good story, good pacing, good combat, good music, good creative. Everything is good. And it's like, what's the weakest part of Chrono Trigger? I have no idea. Nothing's really a problem. Nothing's really like, there's no pain point I can look at and say that's a problem.
The scratches on the disc.
Polished. Yeah.
That's the worst.
Except it was a cartridge. It's a cartridge.
Oh, okay.
It's Super Nintendo. So no scratches.
Oh, God, that's really old then. Wow.
Yeah, like me. As I turn to dust.
Let me just snap my fingers real quick.
Chrono Trigger release date. You weren't alive.
Oh, wow. So that was before the Final Fantasy games then. Damn.
March 1995. You were not.
R.I.P. Well, I guess, but what's the opposite of that? I don't even know.
That's
Oh
No,
god, like
R.I.P. is me.
music that I'm really into though has always been like Final Fantasy games, but like Kingdom Hearts music has always been something that I've listened to. Like music and video games. Like I don't know if you watch NakeyJakey at all, the YouTuber. He's pretty much just like a gamer that talks about like other aspects of gaming. So like case in point, music and video games, pets in video games. He did a video takedown on Rockstar's game design and how it's outdated, but he essentially just like has like all of these different video essays that are talking about different aspects of gaming. So like case in point, one of his most popular videos actually talking about game console UI, about how a good UI, kind of like how we were discussing at the beginning of the episode, where like if something is good, then you won't notice it being a problem. And he was talking about like how Xbox has this really clunky UI compared to like PS4 or something like that. I forget the exact specifics, but regardless, really good YouTube channel. The guy's very, very wholesome. If you like video essays, would 100% recommend it, and it's all video game related.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I've been watching a lot of Donkey lately. Like, it's because Donkey's hilarious.
Donkey's just the goat.
Yeah, it may. I will probably pursue some more variety gaming content, but I just want to watch more Donkey. He's so funny.
I mean, if you like Donkey, you will love NakeyJakey. I will actually send you the video that got me hooked on him, because the very first video that I watched, my brother showed me actually, and it was about flash games were important to the gaming scene. And literally,
yeah, definitely send me that.
If you played Flash games, you will recognize like half of the titles that he talked about. I will also put this link in the video, so that way if anyone wants to check this out, they also have that. But I will send this to you directly right now. NakeyJakey. Really, really good YouTuber though. Okay, Flash games matter.
Years during my childhood.
They did. It's
Yes.
true. I played quite a few of them.
But there you go. Really, like the one that got me was when he said Bowman, because I played that game a lot when I was younger. My brother and I, like, we had a computer that could do like flash animation. So like we would do like stick figure animation and just like watch like these oh god, like do you remember like Newgrounds and Albino Black Sheep? Do you remember those websites
I
at all?
do.
Oh
I
my
do.
god, there was nothing like the Albino Black Sheep days.
Yeah, I remember playing, like, I would see people playing a lot of those games in computer class, and yeah, a lot of tower defense games. I remember playing.
Balloon Towers
lot.
Defense. Ninja Kiwi was another one that I actually played back in the day. They don't have a website anymore, I don't think, but Balloons
They
Tower
still make
Defense is still a
balloons.
thing.
Like, balloons is still a thing.
Savich was
yeah,
streaming
I
it not too
remember-
long ago.
Yeah, I remember playing. There were a bunch of different tower defense games that I played, and anything armor games that came out, I played whatever armor games did.
Yes, Armor Games. My brother his favorite game on that was, I think, Sony 2, I think it was. It's like a
there was-
like a kind of like a Final Fantasy game, like a turn-based RPG kind of thing.
They had a bunch of games. I played the shit out of their Picross, that's for sure. Like, I played a lot of it.
Okay, what would you say is like if you played Flash games, you definitely played blank? That'll be the last
Salad
question.
fingers. Salad fingers.
Was that that was a video, right? Not a game, or was that a game?
Guess so.
Because I specifically remember in high school, like people were talking about like that guy. Because again, like since everyone got iPads, they were looking up freaking content all the freaking time. I could do the voice pretty well back then, but I don't remember what he sounds like. But it's just like very to himself.
Yeah, it was weird and
Yeah.
creepy and strange. I remember there being games that like made the rounds, but this is half my life ago at this point, and I've had a couple beers. Nothing is coming immediately to mind as far as Flash games, but like I know that there are correct answers to this.
All right, so
But
I've got two then. One is Tanks. Did you ever play Tanks when you were younger?
I do not remember Tanks.
Okay, Tanks
I'm
was
sure
on I would think it was egg2 or .com or something like that. It was some weird website. But essentially it was like the perfect game where if you had like 8 people and like one computer, you all could like have this tank, and you'd have like gas, and then you could buy upgrades and like buy bombs to like reach people, that kind of stuff.
That's actually an adaptation of a much older PC game called Scorched Earth. where like it was turn-based, kind of like Worms, very similar to
Yeah.
Worms, and yeah, that's an adaptation of a much older game called Scorched Earth that was on DOS back in the day. Back in my day, it
Whoa.
was a DOS game. Yeah.
Whoa. Um, the second game though, do you ever heard of Territory Wars? That was like the one that I probably played the most against my bro. Like it was always multiplayer games that I played because I had a younger brother. Like he was always in the same room as me because we literally were about a year apart from each other. But Territory Wars was like the one that we probably played the most, and that was just like a kind of similar to tanks, except you're controlling stick figures that throw grenades.
I'm looking up articles now about iconic Flash games of our time. I recognize a few of these. Fancy Pants Adventure, I definitely recognize.
Oh yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
Fancy Pants
Maybe that's the
Adventurer.
one.
That's got to be
Yeah.
like the one that most people remember because like that was a full fucking game, dude. That wasn't just a flash
full
level.
game. Yeah. And I'm trying to remember. There were a couple. There's Line Rider was a big one.
Yes, that's true. That's also
Yeah.
I guess I just went for the ones from
Probably.
my childhood, not like the ones that people know. Because Fancy Pants and Line Rider would probably be like the most popular.
Yeah, I don't think they were the ones that like I played a lot, but I remembered the names when scrolling past them. And Desktop Tower Defense, of course, came up a lot. And a few of these games. Oh, the helicopter game. The helicopter game.
Wait, hold on. What was the name of that one?
That was basically Flappy Bird, right? It was the helicopter with
Yes,
the one
yes,
button
yeah.
and the green. Remember the
Oh
green?
god, I literally remember that. There was oh god, there was like another oh wait, okay, so Angry Birds. Angry Birds is just Crash the Castle but with freaking birds. That
Yes.
was like I would always be a freaking hipster whenever people were playing that at my high school cuz again, iPads. God. Freaking iPads in high school is a mistake. Come on people, learn from this. Learn from my mistakes.
It's the best thing to do with iPads is not give them to the students.
Don't give them to students to literally use during school. They can use Microsoft Word in a freaking computer lab. The computer labs are more important than tablets. See, that was another reason why. Like, that was right when the tablet craze was going down, and they thought that everybody would need it, which is why they gave it to us. But oh my god,
There are worlds where that's theoretically useful, and it's not the world we're in now.
not in American high school. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think I do need to wrap this up because Little Miss here probably needs to go outdoors. So, Ridiculous Hat,
What?
it has been
3 hours and 47 minutes isn't enough.
it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on this, my guy. Obviously, probably would not be doing this if it weren't for your podcasts and whatnot. So, Ridiculous
Thank you.
Hat,
That's very kind of you to say.
go ahead and say some last words. Plug in whatever you want to say. It's your time for the next however long you want to talk.
Twitch.tv/Clark HELLSCREAM. Like and subscribe, especially if you have Amazon Prime.
There you go. That's the best self-promotion that I could ask for.
It's not self-promotion if I do it.
Exactly. Oh man.
Yes. Go. Like, if you're listening to this, you're probably also liking and subscribing Clark's content already. But if you're not, you should right now. Because we talked about multiple times during this episode what a grind it is. If you appreciate this kind of content and taking this time out of his busy night with his 15 credits and his dog looking away at his arm right now, as like I see it on the camera, and like taking 4 hours to fucking talk to me on a weekday, like, pay the man his money. And it's this kind of grind is hard. And Clark, I really appreciate what you're doing to try and diversify your brain and figure out what works and just like get to know people, because the best part of content is getting to know people.
Exactly. That's the one thing. Like, that's the main reason why I made this. I want to be able to not only know more about the people that I already know, such as like you and Luker, but like I got to interview Rami. Like, that is
Who's a swell guy, by the way.
he's so
the Latin
freaking
America
awesome.
scene.
He's so
The
wholesome.
Latin America scene is the best Hearthstone scene in the universe, and the only thing keeping the North American audience from knowing about it is the language barrier. But the Latin Americans are so dialed in and so positive and so engaged with Hearthstone. It's wonderful to watch them in action. Rami's a cool dude.
Yes.
Really cool dude.
And like I like that interview is already up on the channel in case you guys want to check that out. But like,
Hey, where can I find that channel? What's the link?
uh,
How would I find that so I can like and subscribe?
it's just on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Clark HELLSCREAM. That's where you can find all of these amazing podcasts. And actually, I guess I will go ahead and close the podcast with this announcement. I recently got reached out by Brian, Podcaster, who literally
Bro.
the guy who's in charge of the Warcraft radio directories of podcasts, and he wanted to add this onto it. So that will be available on his website where you can find all your Hearthstone podcasts. And then he also turned me on to creating RSS feeds, so that way I can eventually upload this onto Spotify and to other websites that just require the audio. So I'm not going to be on Spotify yet, but we will be on Spotify soon once I have some time to figure out how to upload onto there. So we're making strides, baby. Making strides.
DM me when you're ready to get help with your boomerness.
I will definitely need help with that.
Shoot me a DM. Yeah. Just use Anchor, by the way. That's the secret. Just log into Anchor and make an account and put the audio there. And it'll go.
But regardless, RidiculousHat, everybody, his links will be down in the description because I'm not going to let him not have a chance to, show off all the podcasts that he's a part of because, good Lord, I may be busy, but I feel like you're probably one of the busiest people in the Hearthstone scene with all of your projects and whatnot. So, RidiculousHat, again, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, guys, to like and to subscribe to this video and to this channel if you like this content that you're seeing. And feel free to comment people you would like to see down below. We've already got 2 people on the books. It will be, I think, Lol Nenko and then Nasil from the Open Cup Brazil scene. We got a lot of other people that are also trying to get onto this that I will hopefully be announcing soon. But regardless, thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys for the next video. Have a good one. Stay cool.